Chapter 117. And Lin finally grew tired after flying in the sky for a while. He was still at the beginner level of sword kinesis flight. However, he was already at the initial stage of brick kinesis flight. And Lin's return was greeted by the gazes of all the team members. They all expressed their utmost respect for Lin for being able to have such a good time riding on such an ugly brick. And Lin flipped his hair and asked with a smile, "Are the eggs cooked?" The clown nodded. "They are. Let's each have one first. If anyone doesn't have enough, they can have the remaining two." Each egg was about the size of a watermelon, which was more than enough for one person. However, that didn't mean that there were people who liked to eat them, so they could share them later. And Lin picked up one of the eggs. The eggshell was still very hot, even after being roasted. He gently peeled off the top half of the eggshell, revealing a translucent, white, and tender egg white. The faint aroma of eggs wafted into his nose, greatly increasing his appetite. He impatiently took a bite of the egg white. A honeyed aroma lingered on the tip of his tongue. It was extremely tender and delicious. Delicious! And Lin couldn't help but exclaim in admiration before burying his head in his food. Soon he got to the egg yolk. The golden egg yolk exuded an extremely rich aroma. He couldn't help but take a bite. The egg yolk actually had the crispy aroma of roasted meat. This flavor instantly swept over the tip of his tongue. The aroma of the egg and roasted meat mingled together, creating a rich aroma that wasn't overpowering, creating a delicious experience. It was too delicious. The 5 people and 1 beast all ate heartily and quickly finished the roasted egg in front of them. After that, everyone focused their attention on the remaining 2 roasted eggs. Everyone's eyes burned with desire. That's right, they hadn't had enough. Everyone looked at each other with tacit understanding. They knew that it was time to decide the winner. I'm the smallest and lack nutrition, so I'm growing taller. Can you guys give me an egg? Meow Tian looked at everyone with her large, watery eyes and asked in a pitiful and cute manner. Zhong Yongyan laughed coldly, waved his fan, and retorted, "Student Meow, you're already an adult. No matter how much you eat, you won't be able to grow taller. Let's be reasonable. Why don't we have an idiom game and the winner eats?" The uncultured Luo Zipping was the first to object. "What the hell are you talking about? Food should be provided according to demand. I'm such a big guy. Eating a small bird's egg won't be enough, so I want to eat one more." Sun Xinglian curled her lips and said coldly, "I have big breasts. You should all listen to me. I must have a spot in this bird egg." Miao Tan, Zhong Yongyan, Luo, Zipping. Then the 4 of them argued endlessly for their own reasons. But after a while, they still couldn't come to a conclusion. Thus, they turned their attention to Lin. "Miao Tian, you're the captain. Why aren't you saying anything? Do you have any suggestions on how to distribute the loot?" The corners of Lin's mouth curled up slightly as he wiped off the drool that had flowed out. He smiled and said, "I think it's best to use force to decide the ownership of the 2 eggs." Xiao Chou immediately raised his hands. "I agree." Then the man and the monkey looked at each other and smiled. Miao Tan, Luo, Zipping, and the others' pupils contracted as a sense of foreboding welled up in their hearts. Thump, 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 bang, bang, bang. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Puff, puff, puff. Beside the bonfire, the 4 team members lay sprawled on the ground with bruised faces. Miao Tian sniffled with tears in her eyes. "I've never seen such a shameless person." Zhong Yongyan was enraged. F***CK. What a barbarian. He could have just talked, but he just had to resort to violence. Sun Xinglian saw through Lin's expression. "Who would have thought that I'd be following a captain like him?" Luo, Zipping, clutched at his sore muscles, a determined expression on his face. "I must break through to the spirit-nurturing stage as soon as possible to avenge this egg." In contrast to the resentment of the 4 of them, Lin and Xiao Chou ate the second egg with elation on their faces. What a satisfying experience. This taste was too delicious. The next morning, everyone regrouped and set off again. This time, their main objective was to hunt mutant beasts like the 6-winged bird and the gale soar bird. The reason? You know. Hunting for delicacies was already the main source of fun for Lin and the others. However, bird-type mutant beasts were creatures that could only be chanced upon, so they didn't have much hope. Rip! A huge butterfly was sliced in half by Lin, green juices spilling out. Everyone frowned. This mutant beast, it was obviously not delicious. Thus, Lin and the others continued onward into the depths of the mountain range. Bam! Xiao Chou killed a red unicorn with a single swing of his staff. Looking at the strong and powerful body of the unicorn, the group finally nodded, which was a rare sight. This mutant beast, it was edible. Just like that, Lin stowed the unicorn away into his storage ring. Tears streamed down the faces of the soldiers following behind Lin and the others. This unicorn was a rare species among mutant beasts. It was very valuable. They want to take it back, but it was taken away just like that. Let me tell you, in the depths of the Myriad Mountain domain, there is a mutant beast called the rainbow cow. Not only is its meat extremely delicious, but it can also be tasted in 7 different flavors. It's just like its name, colorful and ever-changing, Xiao Chou explained excitedly. Everyone swallowed involuntarily as they listened to his explanation, their eyes burning with passion. Xiao Chou, where are the rainbow cow mutant beasts that you're talking about usually found? The clown pointed to the southwest. As far as I know, there are rainbow bulls roaming around the Wind Mountain Plains in the southwest. However, I've never been to that place. It's about 250 kilometers away from here. 500 kilometers? Lin furrowed his brows. At their current speed, it might take them 2 or 3 days to get there. However, he didn't want to wait that long. With such delicious food, waiting another day would be torture. Then he took out a brick. Grow, grow, grow. Lin hovered the black brick in the air, expanding it until it was 5 square meters in size. Come, all of you come here. He began to call out to everyone. Luo's zipping and the others' eyes lit up, and they all jumped onto the hovering brick. Although the brick was a little ugly, it could indeed carry a lot of people with such a large surface area. Lin laughed heartily, jumped onto the brick, and unleashed his light evasion technique. Carrying people in flight would expend a lot more vital energy, but he had the chi replenishing pill, so it wasn't a big problem. Let's go, Lin yelled, and the brick trembled for a moment before rising into the sky, flying quickly toward the Wind Mountain Plains in the southwest. However, Lin and the others seemed to have forgotten that there was another group of people on the ground. A group of armored soldiers looked at the black brick that was gradually disappearing into the horizon in silence. Soldier A, did they forget about us? Soldier B, we're invisible to begin with, so it's normal to feel like we've been forgotten. Soldier C, why do I feel like they're doing this on purpose? Soldier D, blue skinny, mushroom. Soldier E, what do we do now? Soldier Chapter 118. There was a cloud mountain to the southwest of the Myriad Mountain realm. It was called the Cloud Mountain because it was shrouded in clouds and mist all year round, making it impossible to see its true appearance. Surrounding the Cloud Mountain was a plateau of mountains. Fierce winds howled here all year round, so it was also called the Wind Plain. A huge black brick descended from the sky and landed on this plateau. So this is the Wind Plain? The scenery is pretty good. And Lin couldn't help but exclaim in admiration as he gazed at the vast expanse of land. Green grass, fierce winds, mountains shrouded in clouds and mist, and fresh air. This was his first impression of this plateau. I heard that the mutant beasts here are extremely ferocious. Everyone, don't let your guard down, Xiao Chou reminded. They continued forward and encountered quite a few beasts along the way. However, they were all docile antelopes and yaks. They didn't discover any mutant beasts. And Lin looked at the towering mountain in front of him and had an idea. Let's go take a look at the mountain up ahead. Xiao Chou looked toward the mountain and explained that mountain is called the Cloud Mountain. It's a very famous mountain in the Myriad Mountain realm. Apparently, it's over 100,000 feet tall and reaches into the heavens. And Lin's eyes lit up after hearing about its height. He could learn another cultivation method now. Stage 1 Wind Spirit. Condition: jump off a cliff over 100,000 feet tall once. Now that he had reached the spirit nurturing stage and learned the sword kinesis flight technique, he was much more confident about this challenge. Unlin and the others walked toward the Cloud Mountain. On their way there, they encountered a mutant beast, a two-headed cat. This mutant beast was indeed much more powerful than normal mutant beasts, and it was comparable to a cultivator of the 10th stage Tao body. However, it was still smashed to death by Xiao Chao's silver staff in the end. When they reached the foot of the mountain, they saw a huge lake. It was called the White Cloud Lake. Under the fierce winds, waves of white water rose from the lake. It was quite a spectacular sight. Big Brother Cho, we've walked so far and still haven't found any rainbow cows. Is your information reliable or not? Miao Tian grumbled. The golden-eyed Monkey King scratched his fur awkwardly. The Great Cow King mentioned this to me before. He wouldn't lie to me about something like this, would he? I'm going to fly to the top of the mountain on my brick, then bungee jump. Who wants to join me? And Lin suddenly said as he pointed at the cloud mountain shrouded in white fog. Luo, Zipping, and the others turned pale when they heard this, and they shook their heads like a rattle drum. The clown also knew that in Lin's strange behavior always had a deeper meaning. Seeing that his team members were unwilling to go, he took the initiative to stay and protect them. Seeing this, and Lin handed a sensory talisman to Xiao Cho. You guys can move around the Wind Mountain plains for now. This sensory talisman only has a range of 5 kilometers. I'll come find you guys later. Seeing that everyone had agreed, he began to fly toward the Cloud Mountain atop his brick. After entering the layer of clouds, he flew up the mountain. The essence chi in Cloud Mountain was very abundant. The higher one flew, the more luxuriant the vegetation became. There were even strange flowers blooming along the mountain. Spirit monkeys appeared in the forest from time to time. Occasionally, one could see red-crowned cranes flying along the mountain, chirping happily. My God, could this Cloud Mountain be the base of some large immortal sect? And Lin murmured to himself. After all, this was an extremely rare sight. Those who didn't know better would definitely think that they had stumbled upon an immortal realm. The mountain was very steep, and even though there were many spirit objects, there were no powerful mutant beasts. This made him heave a sigh of relief. If he had encountered 2 or 3 spirit beasts, then this trip would most likely have been a lot more difficult. And Lin calculated his altitude as he flew. After flying for close to 90,000 feet, he could already see the mountain peak in the distance. The peak of the mountain was a hint of pink, and it looked a little like a peach blossom. Bam! All of a sudden, a loud crash erupted. And Lin felt as if his head had crashed into an invisible barrier, and he instantly saw stars. The black brick almost lost its balance and plummeted from the sky. Ow! What is this? He yelled in shock as he raised his head to look up. However, all he saw was the beautiful scenery of the mountain peak. He didn't discover anything along the way, and Lin was a little unsure as he extended his hand toward the air, only to touch an invisible barrier. Could this be a protective spell formation? He murmured to himself in shock. Could it be that there really was someone at the mountain peak, and that was why they had set up this protective spell formation? And Lin was a little unsure, so he yelled in a loud voice, "Hello, is there anyone here?" His voice was very loud, and it should be able to travel to the top of the mountain. At this moment, at the mountain peak, there was a small peach blossom forest here. The peach blossoms were as red as a flower in the 4th month of a human world. A woman in a white Taoist robe was painting under a tree with a paintbrush in her hand. Her expression was relaxed, and her cheeks were flushed. Her beautiful eyes were focused on the unfinished painting on the white paper. At this moment, a voice sounded from the foot of the mountain. The voice was very loud, and the pink flower petals on the peach blossom tree fell to the ground. The woman furrowed her beautiful brows and ignored this rude person. In any case, this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. When the people at the foot of the mountain couldn't do anything about the spell formation, they would naturally resign themselves to fate and leave. And Lin yelled, but he was a little disappointed to find that there was no reply. What should I do? I'll come all the way here. I can't just give up here, right? There shouldn't be anyone up there. I'll just go for a short while. There shouldn't be any problems. He hesitated for a moment. Finally, his eyes turned snowy white. Divine Inspection Technique, activate. Spell formation flaw analysis. In that instant, heaven and earth disappeared from his eyes. The only thing that remained was an extremely large and complicated spell formation vein pattern. The vital energy circulation path of the spell formation, the formation eye, the hidden lines at each node, flaws, all of this became extremely obvious in his eyes. And Lin extended 2 fingers and aimed in a certain direction before unleashing a powerful burst of energy. Break! Gotcha! An opening was made in the spell formation. He wasn't so immoral as to completely destroy a spell formation that had been set up by someone else. He had only found a flaw in the spell formation, and he had broken through the passageway to temporarily barge into the spell formation. This opening would automatically repair itself after a while. The woman on the mountaintop saw that there was no sound outside and assumed that the man had most likely already left. She continued to focus on her painting. She raised her paintbrush to find that the white crane in the painting was still missing a pair of eyes. Whether or not a painting had a soul could often be determined by the lifelike eyes of the living beings in the painting. She had now reached the most crucial step in her painting. Inspiration welled up in her heart, and she stared at the painting with rapt attention as she gently tapped the white crane's eyes with her paintbrush. Boom! There was a violent collision, and then Lin's black brick came crashing down. The tremors on the ground caused pink flower petals to dance in the air again, carrying with them a faint fragrance. Everything looked so beautiful, but the woman was in a terrible mood. She jabbed her paintbrush into the paper, creating a large, black dot. What an adorable white crane. Its black eyes were even larger than its head. Chapter 119. Half a month of painstaking effort. The woman stared blankly at the painting. She finally understood what it meant to spoil a whole pot of soup. Huh, so there's someone here? And Lin was slightly taken aback by the sight of the woman painting under the peach tree. This woman was very good-looking. She had 2 arched eyebrows and a face that was like a beautiful flower reflecting water. She gave him a delicate and elegant feeling. Hello, I'm so sorry. I barged in without your permission. And Lin knew he was in the wrong and immediately apologized. The woman repressed her anger and didn't say anything. Instead, she carefully examined the handsome man in front of her. She released her powerful divine sense and scanned the man's entire body. Then, her brows furrowed even more. Strange, his cultivation base was only at the spirit-nurturing initial stage. The vital void isolation formation could easily keep even a cultivator of the soul formation final stage at bay. How'd he get in here? I'm asking you. How did you get up here? The woman asked in a gentle voice. Me? I flew up here. And Lin blinked and looked at the woman with a "why are you asking such a stupid question" expression. The woman's chest tightened upon hearing this. She became even more enraged when she saw the disdainful expression on Lin's face. What I'm asking you is, how did you break through my spell formation and get to the top of the mountain? If it weren't for the fact that she was extremely well-mannered, she would have beaten him up a long time ago. Oh, I'm good, so I broke through it. And Lin rolled his eyes at her. What a question. It was like someone asking you why you got 100 marks on your math test. Of course it's because I'm good at math, so I got 100 marks. What did she mean by asking such a question? Was she looking down on him? The woman's cheeks became bright red. That's right, she was furious. Yeah, you're really something. May I ask why you've trespassed on the mountain? The woman knew that there was no way she could converse nicely with this man, so she cut to the chase. And Lin scratched his head sheepishly. I came here because I want to go bungee jumping. The woman was slightly taken aback. Bungee jumping? What is bungee jumping? And Lin suddenly understood. She was not a student of the Celestial Court, so of course she had never heard of bungee jumping. Thus, he changed his words. I'm here because I want to jump off a cliff from this mountain. Hearing this, the woman's face finally sank. Are you playing with me? What a joke. He had worked so hard to break through the array formation and come to the top of the mountain just to jump off the cliff. Only a ghost would believe it. And Lin shrugged. Believe it or not, I'm going to jump anyway. As he spoke, he walked around, looking for the best spot to jump off the cliff. Then, he saw the woman's painting. Haha, what's wrong with this crane's eyes? They're so ugly. Haha. Needless to say, the red-crowned crane's demonic eyes successfully made Lin laugh. Gotcha! The paintbrush was broken by the woman's hand. She believed that she had a good temper and was a quiet and elegant woman, until he met Lin. Very good. Her rage level had gone through the roof. Say that again. The woman gritted her teeth in anger. Unfortunately, Lin was too busy laughing to hear what the woman said. He was still looking at the funny crane in the painting. Huh? Say that again. I didn't hear what you said just then. Ha. You didn't hear me? The woman laughed coldly and stood up with a frosty expression. An extremely terrifying aura suddenly erupted from her slender body. Lin's body shivered, and he instantly came to his senses. Killing intent. Then he saw a white fist flying toward him. And then there was no and then. Lin was beaten half to death. He was clearly of the spirit-nurturing stage, but he was beaten like a chicken by the woman. After beating Lin up, the woman's anger finally subsided significantly. Her fair little face was slightly flushed, making her look even more gorgeous. Looking at the man lying on the ground with a swollen face, the woman was in a daze. Ever since she became obsessed with painting, how long had it been since she last hit someone? Who would have thought that this man would have the ability to anger her to the point of beating someone up? His ability to anger people was truly off the charts, and he didn't even know it. She felt that there must be something wrong with this cultivator's head. And Lin was also afraid of this woman who would beat someone up at the slightest disagreement. He didn't know that the painting was in this state because of him. He felt that there must be something wrong with this Taoist nun's head. Then, the two of them looked at each other as if they were looking at crazy people. And Lin blinked. What are you looking at? The woman furrowed her brows. Why are you looking at me like that? And Lin chuckled. Otherwise, how should I look at you? Teach me. The woman faltered. You? That's right. Even though he couldn't beat this woman, he couldn't back down. Thus, they began to exchange tit for tat. Heavens, is this person sent by the heavens to test my Tao heart? The woman's body trembled as she repeatedly told herself to calm down and not to get impatient. After all, impatience was a huge taboo in painting. As a tranquil and elegant celestial maiden, how could she commit such a taboo? The woman forced a smile onto her face. Hello, my name is Lin Junjun. And Lin faltered. How did this woman change her attitude so quickly? Although he was a little confused, he still introduced himself. Hello, my name is Lin. He got up from the ground and pulled out some anti-swollen medicine from his storage ring before applying it all over his body. He had just applied this medicine to his face this morning, and now he had to apply it all over his body. I'm going to need to buy more. Oh, I see. Then may I ask, Mr. Lin, why have you come to the summit of the mountain? Lin Junjun tried her best to remain calm as she spoke in a gentle voice. And Lin's lips twitched. Didn't he already say that he was here to jump off the cliff? Seeing as Lin Junjun was being polite, he had no choice but to speak again. I really am here to jump off the cliff. Otherwise, why do you think I'm here? There's nothing here, so why would I come to visit a beauty like you? Lin Junjun blushed and didn't know how to retort. In the end, she said in annoyance, Then go ahead and jump off the cliff. And Lin looked at Lin Junjun and nodded. Sigh, it finally makes sense. The veins on Lin Junjun's forehead bulged at the sight of Lin's sympathetic expression. Didn't Lin take her for a fool? Calm down, calm down. I'm a graceful and elegant woman. Lin Junjun kept reminding herself in her mind as she clenched her fists tightly and her body trembled slightly. And Lin ignored her and circled around the summit of the mountain before arriving at the edge of an extremely steep cliff. Ding dong, detected that host has reached the edge of the cliff. He smiled. The system was quite considerate to even give him a notification like this. He waved a hand at the woman behind him. Sorry for disturbing you. We'll meet again. But speaking of which, that crane you drew was really hilarious, haha. Saying this, he leaped off the cliff and performed a leap of faith. He was going to run anyway. He had already been beaten up, so he couldn't afford to lose his composure. Also, that crane was really hilarious. Thump! His head collided with an invisible barrier, and his body came to a halt. And Lin Junjun's gentle voice sounded from above him. What did you just say? Say it again. Chapter 120. Was this the protective barrier of the spell formation? And Lin rubbed his head with a pained expression upon hearing Lin Junjun's words. Hee, I just said sorry for disturbing you. Until we meet again. Oh, wasn't there another line after that? Lin Junjun asked with a hint of a smile on her face. There was another line after that, and Lin's eyes turned snowy white as he looked around with a confused expression. Then, a burst of energy shot out from his fingertip and struck a certain spot in the air. Boom! An opening was blasted open in the spell formation. He descended once again as he said smugly, The last line was, "A crane you drew is really hilarious. Ha ha." Lin Junjun's eyes widened as her chest rose and fell violently. She was enraged. Calm down. Calm down. But in the end, she still felt a sharp pain in her heart, and she gritted her teeth. And Lin, I'll remember you. And Lin resumed his free fall, and he felt a strong sense of weightlessness as his speed increased. He didn't make any movements and allowed his body to plummet. The wind howled, and the scenery around him changed rapidly. Slowly, he could feel the aura of the mountain and the power of the wind. A force supported his body, and the speed at which he was falling gradually stabilized. Although he was falling at an extremely fast speed, at least he wasn't accelerating anymore. At this speed, and Lin was confident that he would be able to save his own life. However, when he was about 30,000 feet from the ground, for some reason, the air resistance seemed to have decreased. A mysterious force began to slowly weaken the wind's resistance. The balance of power was broken, and he began to accelerate again. Holy F***CK, what's going on? The speed at which he was falling suddenly increased, and Lin was startled. A gust of wind that was as smooth as a fluid appeared around him, and the air resistance became weaker and weaker, controlling the wind with the wind. And Lin's eyes lit up as he came to a realization. Whoosh! At a distance of 1,000 meters from the ground, he was falling at a speed far faster than the speed of sound, leaving a trail of white clouds in his wake. And Lin was extremely nervous as he looked at the ground that was getting closer and closer. Why isn't there any notification from a system? I'm going to die. When his speed reached a certain level, he would become a human bomb. At that time, the terrifying impact might shatter people's internal organs, and they might even lose their lives. It only took 1 or 2 seconds to cover the distance of 1,000 meters. Ding dong. As soon as he heard this sound, and Lin immediately summoned the big black brick that he had prepared beforehand and pushed his body upwards. However, the terrifying inertia of falling was not so easy to stop. Boom! The impact caused the earth to shake. Sand and stones flew everywhere as a huge crater appeared on the ground. Amidst the smoke and dust, the man's painful moans could be heard, and Lin shakily crawled out of the huge pit. His face was covered in dirt, and his entire body looked like it had fallen apart. Fortunately, he managed to survive. The wind spirit technique began to flow into his body. At this moment, and Lin completely understood the profoundness of this cultivation technique and successfully advanced to the first level. The wind spirit technique was actually a technique that contained the origin of the Tao of Qi. Speed, movement technique, short flight, it had a wide range of uses. A satisfied smile appeared on Lin's face as he opened the system interface again. Following the completion of learning the wind spirit technique, another mission appeared on the system interface. Under the wood-type cultivation technique, Stage 1 Evergreen Technique, condition, consume 5 wood-type immortal pills in a row. And Lin was momentarily dazed when he saw this condition. 5 immortal pills. This was a mission that only tycoons could afford. But it just so happened that he was a tycoon. After returning to the Celestial Court, he headed to Do Shui Palace. He could also learn the water-type cultivation technique. Stage 1 Divine Liquid Creation Technique. Condition. Absorb all the energy essence of a soul formation stage horn dragon. The soul formation stage horned dragon mentioned here was also known as the Dragon King in the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. In Lin's current situation, firstly, he had no vendetta against the dragon tribe, and secondly, he was not powerful enough. Hence, it was better to forget about this cultivation technique. Finally, there was a new mission for his cultivation base. Spirit nurturing intermediate stage, condition, cultivate well, and improve every day. And Lin, very good, very powerful. Who could tell him that a human who had materialized a beast core? How was he supposed to cultivate? F***CK. If the system could take human form, and Lin would definitely beat up for 3 days and 3 nights. This was clearly a trap dug for him, and once he jumped into it, they wouldn't care about it anymore. And Lin felt a stabbing pain in his chest. He was so angry that he found it difficult to breathe. With great difficulty, he finally managed to calm down the emotions in his heart. Forget it. I'll just ask Xiao Cho how he cultivates. Worst comes to worst. He didn't want to be human anymore. He took out his sensory talisman and began to sense Xiao Cho's location. They hadn't gone far and were still in the vicinity of the Cloud Mountain. And Lin held the sensory talisman in his hand and began to fly on his brick. After flying for a while, he smelled a rich aroma. This aroma was extremely mystical. As if it contained different kinds of scents, he shuddered. This was the smell of rainbow cows. He immediately accelerated. Rainbow cows. I'm coming. Sure enough, he saw a bonfire in the distance, as well as Luo, Zipping, and the others. The black brick landed on the ground, and Lin jumped down. You're eating rainbow cows, right? Everyone nodded and looked at him with pity in their eyes. And Lin felt a sense of foreboding when he saw the scene next to the bonfire. Is there more? Tears welled up in his eyes. At this moment, Miao Tian couldn't help but burp. Sun Xinglian smiled lightly. Captain, you're late. Don't worry. We can use these to make soup. It should be quite delicious. Miao Tian pointed at the pile of beef bones on the ground with a grin. And Lin's lips twitched, and he sat down on the ground in a daze. My rainbow cows, how could you do this? When there was only a pile of beef bones left, the entire space was still filled with the aroma of rainbow cows. This was a hellish torture for him. It was like when your stomach was rumbling with hunger, and you could only watch helplessly as others ate braised pork ribs and spicy chicken wings in front of you. Despair, Luo Zipping consoled Captain upon seeing him like this. Big brother, and you've experienced the thrill of bungee jumping. You win some, you lose some. It would have been better if Luo Zipping hadn't brought this up. At the mention of this, and Lin immediately thought of Lin Junjun's beating, the horror of falling off a cliff, and the despair of cultivating and improving himself. This time, not only was he in a daze, even his eyes had turned red. Xiao Cho was just about to console Lin when a huge wave suddenly appeared on the surface of the lake. Bam! A huge figure leapt out from the lake, bringing with it a cloud of mist. An extremely powerful aura rippled outward, causing Lin and the others to feel as if they were under immense pressure. Who is summoning me? Its voice was as loud as a clap of thunder. Chapter 121. A gigantic dragon over 100 feet in length covered in azure scales floated in the air, looking down at Lin and the others. Holy F***CK! Where did this dragon come from? Everyone was shocked as they stared blankly at the gigantic dragon in the sky. We summoned this dragon. And Lin stared at the gargantuan creature that was as mighty as a mountain, and he couldn't even speak properly. Miao Tian and the others were all confused. They hadn't done anything. Combining what they had learned in the Celestial Court, this dragon had yellow horns and no wings, so it was most likely a soul formation stage horned dragon. Why was it being known as the Dragon King, who ruled over an entire region of water, sleeping in this lake? Seeing no one respond, the horned dragon took a deep breath. Instantly, a gust of wind howled through the air, and Lin and the others felt their hearts tremble, thinking that the dragon was going to attack them. They all pulled out their weapons. Right at this moment, the rainbow cow bones on the ground flew into the horned dragon's mouth. Then, The horned dragon chewed with a satisfied expression. The bone marrow of this rainbow cow is the most delicious. Not only does it exude a myriad of flavors, but it also has the effect of strengthening one's body. It really is the best of the best. In comparison, its meat is as tasteless as weeds. Well done. Among the people who have used the rainbow cow as a sacrifice to summon me, you are the first summoners who have even removed the meat for me. The horned dragon revealed an expression of approval as it spoke. Lin and the others were all dumbstruck. There was too much information in this sentence. Holy F***CK. The rainbow cow could summon this dragon? The bone marrow of the rainbow cow was the most delicious. Everyone's gaze converged on Xiao Chou, as if they really wanted to eat him alive. Xiao Chou wore an expression of indignation and innocence. Holy F***CK. The great cow king didn't tell him about this. What would he do? After finishing the rainbow cow bones, the horned dragon finally asked, "Tell me, what is your wish for summoning me?" Lin and the others were all dumbstruck. Wish? What would the Scions think? Toriyama would cry. What would the Scions think? Toriyama would cry. Miao Tian was the first to come to her senses. She yelled, "Divine Dragon, I want to grow taller. I want to grow to a height of 7 meters. The clown also came to a realization and immediately said, "Dragon God, I want to become handsome. I want to become as handsome as the Monkey King, the great sage, heaven's equal." Since they had made a wish, of course, everyone fought to be the first to make a wish. They were afraid that if they were too late, their spots would be gone. Luo zipping. "I want a peerless cultivation technique." Zhong Yongyan. "I want to become the smartest person in the world." Sun Shengyan said, I want to become the most beautiful woman in the world. And Lin couldn't think of any particularly urgent wishes at the moment. After they finished speaking, he forced himself to make a wish. "I wish for world peace." Puffed. The horned dragon's chest tightened, and he spat out a waterfall-like pillar of water. "Are you F***king kidding me?" Its voice was as terrifying as thunder, instantly extinguishing the enthusiasm of Lin and the others. Then everyone looked at it as if it was a fake. The horned dragon's chest tightened again. What the F***CK was going on? Why was it being looked down upon again? "What is your wish? What item do you wish to exchange for? Let me make this clear. I don't have much left in my treasure vault. I hope you can offer me something that satisfies me." The horned dragon calmed itself down and asked again, "Exchange?" Lin and the others were stunned for a moment before realization dawned on them. So, the wish it was referring to was an exchange of items? Everyone looked at each other and could see the disdain in each other's eyes. What kind of bullsh**t wish was this? To think that this dragon had made it sound so majestic and righteous. What a waste of that pile of rainbow cow bones. The horned dragon's chest tightened when it saw the disdain on everyone's faces. They had no desire to trade at all. If it wasn't for its good temper and its need to protect the reputation of the Yunshan Lake Treasure Vault, it might have spat out a mouthful of water to kill them. Since they didn't want to trade, why did they summon it? Were they toying with it? The horned dragon was just about to fly into a rage when it suddenly thought of another possibility, and its eyes lit up. Could it be that you're not here to exchange for treasures, but to explore the ruins of the White Cloud Lake? Ruins? Everyone's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and their adventurous spirit began to burn. They wanted to find an excuse to reject the horned dragon's bullsh**t wish, but they didn't know what to say. After all, if they didn't come up with a good excuse, they might incur the wrath of a soul formation stage being. Now that they had a suitable excuse, they all nodded excitedly. "All right, come with me. These ruins aren't that easy to explore. Even if it's for the inheritance, you have to put your life above all else, understand?" The horned dragon cautioned. And Lin and the others' eyes lit up even more upon hearing that there was an inheritance within the ruins, and they nodded in agreement. "Open." The horned dragon spoke in dragon language, and the surface of the lake suddenly began to split open, revealing a passageway that extended downward. The horned dragon transformed into a middle-aged man with a pair of yellow eyes and a pair of dragon horns on his head. "Come with me." The man looked at everyone before speaking in an extremely calm voice. And Lin and the others were immediately able to confirm that this was a dragon tribe cultivator from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. At the end of the passageway was a large metal gate. No matter how much the water in the lake corroded the gate, it still retained its metallic luster and appeared both ancient and new at the same time. The man gave Lin a bugle horn and explained that as long as they blew the bugle horn, he would come to open the gate and escort everyone out of the White Cloud Lake. "Are you guys ready?" the man asked in an indifferent voice. And Lin and the others nodded solemnly upon hearing this. Exploring the ruins was bound to be accompanied by life-threatening dangers, and they were already mentally prepared for this. Rumble. The gate opened, and a faint blue film of light enshrouded the entire gate. There are restrictive spell formations within the ruins, and I'm only at the soul formation stage, so I can't enter. "Everything inside is up to you," the man said. And Lin and the others stepped into the gate with uneasy hearts. For some reason, when Lin stepped into the blue film of light, he felt as if his entire body had been scanned, and a peculiar feeling welled up in his heart. The gate began to close, and the Dragon Tribe male closed the passageway before standing beside the lake in deep thought. How long has it been? Who would have thought that there would still be cultivators with no regard for their own lives? Forget it. Let's report this to Master Tianyu first. At the summit of the Cloud Mountain, Lin Junjun laid out a new piece of paper. This time, she had to redraw that painting. She didn't tear that hilarious painting of a white crane to shreds. Instead, she kept it as a cautionary tale, and, at the same time, she wanted to remind herself not to forget a certain B** starred. Lin Junjun's delicate features were filled with determination, and her heart was as calm as still water. She slowly entered a state of meditation, and she was just about to begin drawing. At this moment, the voice transmission talisman suddenly vibrated. Lin Junjun's brows furrowed slightly, and she waved her hand to retrieve the voice transmission talisman. "What is it?" "Master Tianyu, there are cultivators exploring the ruins of the 88th Purple Star Research Institute." The man's respectful voice sounded from the voice transmission talisman. "Oh, what's their lineup?" Even the usually calm and collected Lin Junjun's emotions fluctuated quite a bit upon hearing this news. One spirit nurturing intermediate stage, one spirit nurturing initial stage, 3/10 stage Dao body, and 1/9 stage Dao body. Lin Junjun nodded upon hearing this. "I hope they'll be able to reap some rewards. If they can obtain any additional information, they'll be considered heroes of the Celestial Court. When the time comes, bring them to me to receive their rewards." "Yes, Master Tianyu." The man accepted the order, and the voice transmission talisman was cut off. Lin Junjun shook her head and continued to focus her attention on the painting. She didn't have high expectations for this lineup. Although this lineup wasn't weak, it definitely wasn't strong either. Originally, only cultivators below the soul formation stage could enter these ruins, and the ideal lineup would be a team consisting of several spirit-nurturing final stage cultivators. However, after being wiped out a few times in these so-called ideal teams, very few cultivators were willing to enter the ruins. After all, everyone was afraid of death. Hence, this lineup was probably the best lineup in the past 10 years, right? So be it, seeing as they're so brave. Regardless of whether they obtain any additional information from the ruins, I'll give them some rewards for making it out alive. Lin Junjun suddenly murmured to herself as she gripped her paintbrush. Chapter 122. After passing through the blue barrier of light, and Lin and the others were all rooted to the spot. They wondered if they had entered the wrong door and come to the wrong place. They were in a spacious hall with tables and chairs, as well as some intricate artistic sculptures. The floor and walls were constructed from some kind of white composite material. They were smooth and clean, without a single speck of dust on them. Strange mechanical constructs hovered in the air, exuding a cold metallic luster. Everything here was neat and tidy. Everything was brand new, as if this was a brand new house. The most important thing was that this place was too modern. Have you ever seen a ruin with a Gundam in it? This was it. and Lin made his way over to the mechanical constructs and carefully inspected them. These mechanical constructs were shaped like humans with sharp blades embedded in every part of them. There were also cannons scattered all around them, and there was a circular object in the middle that appeared to be an energy source. He was very certain that this was a humanoid Gundam, and Lin was in a daze. How could these things appear in the cultivation world? This didn't make sense. He tried to move the humanoid Gundam into his storage ring, but he was obstructed by an invisible force. Not only was he unable to move it, but he couldn't even touch it. It was as if there was an invisible barrier between him and the Gundam. This was to be expected. After all, there were many cultivators who had come to these ruins. With so many Gundams here, it was impossible for them to not have any ulterior motives. It looked like there was no hope for them to obtain these items. At the end of the hall was a dim passageway without any light, giving off a sense of danger. Big Brotherin, what do we do next? Miao Tian asked, and Lin was also a bit unsure. They were actually just trying to find a reason to appease the horned dragon. After all, they had gone to great lengths to summon it, so they couldn't just say that this was a misunderstanding and let it go back to its nest. They only needed to sit on the chair and wait for a while before blowing the horn to leave this place. This was the safest course of action. However, this was a ruin, and there were inheritances here. Immortal cultivation required both talent and opportunity. To them, accidentally stumbling into these ruins was perhaps a fortuitous encounter. However, the horned dragon in the lake had also said that the ruins were filled with danger and that it would be life-threatening. How about this? Those who want to explore the ruins with me can follow me. Those who don't want to stay here and wait. And Lin didn't have the confidence to guarantee everyone's safety. He could only let them make their own choices. Then, everyone stood beside him. Their intentions were self-evident, and Lin was a little surprised. Aren't you afraid of death? Let me make this clear. I'm not the great god and who slew the Dark Knight monarch in your hearts. I'm just an ordinary spirit nurturing initial stage cultivator. I know. Miao Tian rolled her eyes at him and pouted in dissatisfaction. Zhong Yongyan waved his fan and said indifferently, "Of course I'm afraid of death, but if I can't attain immortality, then I will die eventually. This is something that cannot be avoided. The reason I'm risking my life to seize this opportunity is to increase the possibility of achieving immortality and longevity in the future." Everyone nodded silently, clearly in agreement with Zhong Yongyan's words. And Lin didn't say anything else after seeing the determination in everyone's eyes. He walked toward the black passageway at the end of the hall. He held a long sword in his right hand and a brick in his left, appearing extremely domineering. When they arrived at the entrance of the passageway, it was pitch black inside. From afar, there seemed to be a fork in the shape of a chevron. Due to the obstruction of vision, they couldn't see the end of it. There's a metal sign at the entrance with some indistinct words on it. "This is the Silent Sun," Xinglian suddenly spoke up with a hint of surprise on her face. "Do you understand these words?" And Lin's eyes lit up. Sun Xinglian nodded and read slowly in a cold voice. "This is the Purple Star language. It says, Purple Star 88th Research Institute, Biological Bloodline Research Center." And Lin's lips twitched. So the ruins they were exploring were a research institute? What the hell was going on? Couldn't they take a more normal adventure? However, the Purple Star civilization seemed to be a technologically advanced civilization on the Taichu continent, but it was destroyed for some reason. The information on this sign explained why these ruins were in this state. Miao Tian immediately let loose a cry of surprise. "You mean the Purple Star Research Institute of the Purple Star Civilization?" Sun Shunglian nodded solemnly. Compared to Miao Tian and Sun Shunglian's grave expressions, everyone else was a little confused. They were clearly thinking, isn't this just the ruins of a technologically advanced civilization? Why are they so nervous? Let me explain. Sun Xinglian saw everyone's expressions and said, "In the northeastern region of the Taichu continent, there is an extremely vast wasteland of death. You all know about it, right?" And Lin and the others nodded. "That was once the territory of the Purple Star civilization. I come from the Purple Star state of the Kingdom of the Nine States, which is adjacent to that wasteland of death. The purple star state wasn't originally called the purple star state. Instead, it was called the snow mist state. As for why it was changed to the purple star state, most people thought that it was to commemorate the fallen civilization, but that's not actually the case. Lin and the others all perked up upon hearing Sun Shenlian's words. They knew that this was the main point. As for why it was changed to the purple star state, it was because it received the inheritance of the purple star civilization. No, to be more accurate, it received the inheritance of the Purple Star Research Institute number 9 and number 26. There are only 100 research institutes in the Purple Star that can be identified by serial numbers. All of the other research institutes are in that wasteland of death. They have either been destroyed or are in dire straits. Sun Shenlian's words sent waves of shock surging through everyone's hearts. How was the Purple Star State able to rise from the weakest state to the second most powerful state of the Kingdom of the Nine States in just 1,000 years? The inheritance of 2 research institutes was enough to transform the Purple Star State into the second most powerful state of the Kingdom of the Nine States. Then wouldn't the inheritance value of the 88th Research Institute they were in be unimaginably high? It looks like these ruins really are dangerous. Luo, zipping, muttered. The greater the reward, the greater the risk. Should we go? Everyone looked at each other. After hesitating for a while, everyone unanimously decided to give it a try. Lin led the way into the pitch-black passageway, taking each and every step with extreme caution for fear of triggering some kind of mechanism. It's so dark. The main hall is so bright, but it's like it's withered in here. It's so dark. This is too much of a bully, Miao Tian complained in a low voice. This is a way to create a terrifying atmosphere. It's an old trick, Zhong Yongyan said lightly. Right at this moment, Xiao Cho spoke. Should we turn on the lights? Huh? Everyone looked at Xiao Cho in unison, as if to say, where's the button? Is this passageway yours? Immediately afterward, they understood what Xiao Cho meant by turning on the lights. Gotcha? Xiao Cho's eyes were like super searchlights, exploding with a blinding light. Oh, I'm blinded. Everyone was looking at Xiao Cho, and they were instantly blinded by the light from his eyes. You lead the way. And Lin roared with his eyes closed. Never would he have thought that Xiao Cho's light bulb-like eyes could be used as F*King lights, and super powerful searchlights at that. Was this the inferior version of the fiery eyes of truth? Thus, the pitch-black passageway became brightly lit. Everyone continued to walk along the passageway, and the sense of terror and anxiety instantly decreased by 10,000 points. Chapter 123. The walls and floor of the entire passageway were constructed from an inky black metallic material. Lin had never seen this material before, but it looked black, so it should be quite hard. We've come to a fork in the road. Xiao Cho, illuminate both sides. Lin looked at the pitch-black passageway as he spoke. Xiao Cho looked at both sides. Under the illumination of the searchlight, everyone discovered that there was a dark red gate on either side, blocking the path. How about we split up? Luo, zipping, suggested. Are you stupid? Don't you know there's strength in numbers? How many cultivators have been defeated one by one just because they believed in splitting up? Miao Tian rolled her eyes at Luo, zipping, with a disdainful expression. Luo, zipping, then let's take this path together. Lin pointed to the path on the right. No one had any objections. It was a choice of 2 anyway, and there were gates on either side, so there wasn't much difference. They walked to the gate, and it opened automatically. It was the same old blue barrier of light, so they couldn't see what was inside. Lin gripped his brick and longsword tightly as he slowly walked through the barrier of light. It had to be said, the feeling of not being able to see what was going on inside was very nerve-wracking. Their vision changed, and a faint smell of blood wafted through the air, accompanied by a strange odor. What's this smell? It's so disgusting. And Lin couldn't take it anymore, and the team members behind him also came in, all of whom started to retch. There was green light in this place, and there was a strange odor wafting through the air. The ground was covered in dark red spots, and all sorts of strange and unnatural things made everyone's brows furrow. This space was very large, and there were hundreds of cylindrical glass tubes, all of which were soaked in a red liquid. One humanoid beast after another was soaked in the liquid, and no one knew if they were in a deep slumber or already dead. Some of the people here were covered in green scales, some had bone wings on their backs, some had lizard tails, and some even had the heads of wild beasts, giving them a sinister appearance. Bloodline Fusion Laboratory, Sun Xunglian read aloud as she looked at the words on the wall. Bloodline Fusion? Hearing this, everyone looked at the glass tubes in a different light. The bloodlines of humans and exotic beasts are being merged and modified? Zhong Yongyan frowned, his voice gradually turning cold. A hint of pity appeared in Lin's eyes as he looked at these inhuman bodies. No matter how advanced technology was, such dark experiments would not disappear. Perhaps some kind of desire would become even stronger. Everyone walked around the laboratory. Other than the bodies of different shapes and sizes, they did not find anything special. Let's go to the next chamber. And Lin shook his head and led the way to another secret chamber. How big was the 88th Purple Star Research Institute? No one knew. Sun Xinglian, who hailed from the Greenwood Imperial family of the Purple Star State, revealed that the ruins of the two research centers they had developed were even larger than Ding and City. In this case, the 88th Research Institute was definitely not small. After everyone entered another secret room, the green light of the Bloodline Fusion Laboratory slowly turned red. At the same time, tiny bubbles appeared in the liquid inside the glass. The second chamber had a much better environment than the first chamber. It was a medicine room. Let's call it a medicine room for now. After all, there were many semi-transparent cabinets around the room, within which were all types of medicinal ingredients, as well as some liquids of different colors. And Lin made his way over and tried to put the cabinets into his storage ring again. Unfortunately, he failed again. Xiaoqiu even swung his silver staff at the cabinets. However, the cabinets did not budge in the slightest. Instead, he was knocked back a good few meters. Everyone was quite disappointed that they could only look at these things and could not touch them. And Lin heaved a faint sigh and continued onward. At this moment, two doors appeared in different directions. He chose the door on the left this time, as most of the important things were located in the center of the ruins. That way, there would be a higher chance of encountering something good. And then, they really did encounter something good. A beautiful woman in a flowing white dress. Welcome to the trial of 5 elements, the beautiful woman in a white dress said in an emotional voice. Lin and the others all faltered upon hearing this. However, they soon discovered that something was different. This beautiful woman in a white dress was a semi-transparent body constructed from light. It was not a physical body. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Bai Ling, and I am the clone of the mastermind of this research institute. The trial of 5 elements requires at least 5 people to reach the 5 extremes of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth to pass the trial. According to past trial takers, the survival rate for this trial is 75%. Successfully passing this trial will give you a chance to obtain the inheritance of the 5 elements. Do you accept the trial? Bai Ling stared at Lin. It was quite clear that she had some basic discernment abilities. The inheritance was obtained through the trial? Shouldn't he find a stone somewhere in a corner and write a secret manual on it? And Lin was a little disappointed, but he still turned to the other team members. He knew the answer from their expressions. Let's begin the trial. Bai Ling smiled upon hearing this. Instantly, the entire trial grounds began to tremor. Immediately afterward, powerful energy fluctuations appeared in 5 different directions. These were 5 completely different areas. Raging flames surged into the sky. Bluish-green waves surged, entangling roots, a forest of sabers and swords, and flying rocks. There's a ball at the end of the 5 areas. Inject your vital energy into the ball at the same time, and you'll pass the trial, Bai Ling continued. After some discussion, it was decided that Lin would go to the water area, Xiaoqiu to the fire area, Sun Xunglian to the metal area, Luo Zipping to the earth area, and Miao Tian and Zhong Yongyan to the wood area. And Lin walked to the front of the water area. This area was only a few hundred meters in length. The first half was filled with raging waves, while the second half was filled with eerie icicles. It didn't look very difficult, but he still didn't dare to be careless. He walked forward step by step. Boom! The raging waves crashed into his body with the force of 1,000 kilograms, causing his body to tremble as he stumbled back in retreat. What terrifying power! Although Enlin could still handle this power, he was starting to worry about his Dao body stage teammates. Although Xiao Cho was unbearably hot in the face of the raging flames, he wasn't in any life-threatening danger, so he sped up and rushed toward the end. Sun Shunglian charged through a forest of sabers and swords. Sharp sabers slashed through a series of lethal trajectories toward her, and the swords on the ground floated into the air before transforming into flying swords that circled around her. Although she was proficient in swordsmanship and movement techniques, it was still quite difficult for her to advance. Luo Zipping had a body-forging cultivation technique that made his body extremely tough. He didn't even try to dodge the flying rocks in the air. Instead, he continued to charge forward like a tank made of flesh. Compared to Sun Xinglian and Luo Zipping's difficulty, Miao Tian and Zhong Yongyan's duo was mysteriously relaxed. Zhong Yongyan cast a levitation spell technique on them at the same time. This type of flight was inflexible and could only be described as a rampage. They couldn't even make turns, but they were extremely fast. The two of them suddenly rose into the air and rushed forward. Only then did the roots on the ground begin to react and wrap themselves around them. At this moment, the tornado of wind blades and flywheels formed a powerful defensive net that tore through the incoming roots like a blender. Plop! The two of them landed on the ground and immediately reached for the balls in front of them. Whoosh! With domain completed. Xiao Cho passed through the sea of flames and activated the balls. Fire domain completed. And Lin slashed through the countless icicles with his sword before injecting his vital energy into the balls. Water domain completed. Luo Zipping's body was swollen all over, some of which were still bleeding, but he still managed to charge out of the earth domain and activate the balls. Sun Xinglian was the last person to activate the balls. Her arm had been sliced open, revealing her snowy white skin as blood flowed freely from the wound. Vital energy was injected into the 5 balls at the same time. Suddenly, the trial grounds began to tremble. A mechanical voice sounded in the field, "Trial complete." Immediately afterward, everyone felt their vision darken. In the next moment, they arrived in a space that was pure white and void of all things. In the center, a black ball hovered in the air. Teleportation? So fast. And Lin was startled by this piece of technology. When he saw this, a sense of déjà vu welled up in his heart, causing him to become even more flustered. At this moment, Bai Ling's figure appeared again. Welcome to the Mastermind Space. The inheritance ceremony will now commence. Chapter 124. And Lin's lips twitched when he heard Bai Ling mention the Mastermind Space. Thankfully, this thing couldn't provide the ability to travel between planes. Otherwise, he would really think that he had entered the supercomputer dimension by mistake. Next, the light of the supercomputer will descend upon you. You all have a certain chance of obtaining a portion of the inheritance. It will be up to your fate. Bai Ling spoke with a faint smile. A beam of light suddenly shot forth from the black orb onto everyone's bodies. Sun Shilian's brows furrowed tightly as she closed her eyes. Everyone else within the light faltered slightly. They looked at each other in bewilderment. Congratulations to this female for obtaining the inheritance of the Tao of Metal. Bai Ling spoke to Sun Xinglian with a smile. What about us? Luo Zipping, who was covered in bruises, asked with a sullen expression. You guys didn't win, Bai Ling replied nonchalantly. Everyone was disappointed to hear this. This type of inheritance, they felt like they had worked so hard, only to have to draw a prize like a lottery in the end. It was a little frustrating. After another rush of dizziness, everyone returned to the original trial grounds. Sun Shilian also opened her bright eyes with an expression of joy on her face. How is it, student Sun? What inheritance did you obtain? And Lin asked curiously. How do I put it? It's a portion of the Purple Star Civilization's understanding of the Tao of Metal. It's mainly related to the power of the bloodline. It's very beneficial to my understanding of the Tao of the Sword. As Sun Shilian spoke, she, who had always been serious in speech and manner, actually burst into a beautiful smile. And Lin and the others knew from her expression that she had reaped great rewards this time. So envious, what should they do? Ahem, let's continue. And Lin cleared his throat. Miao Tian and the others all raised their hands in agreement. After that, they arrived at a few isolated secret rooms. There were all types of research equipment that they couldn't understand or move. It was like visiting a museum. Then, they arrived at an extremely spacious space. Bai Ling made her way over with a dainty smile on her face as she extended a greeting. Welcome to the trial of the bloodline. The survival rate for this trial is 31%. What you have to do is to destroy the bloodline androids here. Those who pass the trial have a chance to obtain the bloodline inheritance in the laboratory, Bai Ling replied. Bloodline inheritance from the laboratory? A strange feeling suddenly welled up in Lin's heart. Wait, what kind of bloodline inheritance are you talking about? A smile appeared on Bai Ling's face as she replied. This is a bloodline inheritance artificially created by our laboratory. Anything produced by the Purple Star must be of the highest quality. And Lin, why does it sound like he's trying to sell a product? In the Bloodline Fusion Lab, are the monsters soaked in fiberglass related to your bloodline inheritance? Zhong Yongyan suddenly thought of these two things. Oh, those are incomplete bloodline inheritances. Don't worry, the inheritance I'm giving you is a finished product, Bai Ling said expressionlessly. When everyone heard this, they immediately felt uneasy. They felt that this reward was a bit frightening, as if they were being forced to do human experiments. Big brother, and how about we check out the other rooms? Miao Tian suggested uneasily. And Lin nodded. Since this place was so big, there should be other places to harvest. We refuse this trial. And Lin said to Bai Ling, do you agree to the trial? All right, the trial begins now. I wish you good luck. Bai Ling smiled and disappeared on the spot. And Lin. Everyone was dumbstruck. Holy F***, CK. Was she deaf? She clearly said refuse. CK. I feel like I've been scammed. Luo Zipping cursed. Everyone quickly came to their senses as expressions of rage and indignation appeared on their faces. There was definitely something wrong with this Bai Ling. No, there was something wrong with this entire set of ruins. At this moment, a hole began to slowly open up in the ground. A cylindrical fiberglass container slowly rose up, within which was filled with a red liquid. The fiberglass door began to open, and the liquid poured out. Be careful. And Lin's expression was extremely grave as he cautioned. An extremely powerful aura exuded from within the fiberglass. A man slowly walked out from the fiberglass, panting heavily as if he were a demon from hell. His eyes were crimson red, and his hands had already transformed into dragon claws covered in scales. The dragon claws plunged into his back, and he slowly pulled out the bony spikes on his spine. A cruel and bloodthirsty smile appeared on his face as he looked at everyone. His smile was extremely cold, and it sent chills down everyone's spine. Then, he sprang into action, and his entire body transformed into a black streak. Disperse! And Lin roared before unleashing a mountain-quaking fist toward the man. Boom! The power of Lin's mountain-quaking fist was even purer and more powerful now that he was at the spirit-nurturing stage. A golden light even lit up the entire trial grounds. Hearing this, everyone began to disperse to create a space for Lin and Xiao Chou to fight. The man slashed down toward the golden fist with his spine, unleashing a pure black saber projection that instantly shattered the mountain-quaking fist without losing any of its momentum. And Lin's pupils contracted. He didn't think that his powerful technique would be so easily countered by the man. Xiao Chou roared as he swung his silver staff toward the man. The sound of metal clanging rang out when the staff and spine collided. Sparks flew through the air, and Xiao Cho was sent flying by the terrifying force of the collision. No, I can't hesitate anymore. And Lin took out a soul formation sword/talisman from his storage ring and immediately activated it. Unyielding frost sword. He yelled as he injected his vital energy into the talisman. However, the talisman didn't react at all. Holy F***CK. The talisman didn't work? And Lin was shocked, and he immediately switched to another talisman. Immediately afterward, he felt an invisible force suppressing him, and the talisman couldn't be activated at all. The man wielding the spine was already charging toward him at an extremely fast speed. Instantly, a flying wheel slashed toward him. The man swung his spine and knocked the flying wheel away. However, right at this moment, a series of sword intent and wind blades enshrouded the man. Boom! The energy began to explode and spread outward. At this moment, Lin also pulled out his evil slaying sword. The man dashed out of the range of the explosion and slashed a black line through the air with his spine. His speed was extremely fast. However, Lin activated his divine inspection technique at this moment, and his eyes turned snowy white. His evil slaying sword mercilessly slashed toward an opening in the man's defense. The man's expression froze, and he abruptly stopped in his tracks. His body twisted like a snake, and he evaded Lin's sword strike. Such fast reflexes, and Lin was shocked. The attack that he had unleashed after analyzing the opening in his divine inspection technique had been countered by this man. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation in battle. After evading the attack, the man immediately retaliated, and he slashed out several lethal black streaks with his spine. And Lin stumbled back in retreat. Even though he had activated his divine inspection technique to analyze and evade the man's attacks, his body was unable to keep up with the man's terrifying speed, and he was instantly wounded in many places. At this moment, Xiao Cho also joined the battle with his silver staff. And Lin's situation didn't improve much with the addition of Xiao Cho, and he was still firmly suppressed. If things continued like this, he would bleed to death as the number of wounds on his body continued to increase. Xiao Cho, unleash a powerful technique for me. It'll be enough if you can suppress him for a second. And Lin roared. Xiao Cho grimaced. I don't know any powerful techniques. And Lin. Chapter 125. The man wielding the spine as a weapon clearly wanted to kill Lin first. And Lin's body had been slashed in many places, and blood was flowing all over his body. Even Xiao Cho had sustained some serious injuries. A bone-deep gash had appeared on his chest. Xiao Cho didn't have any trump cards, and they didn't have any trump cards either. How were they supposed to fight? Lightning manipulation technique? In a situation like this, even staying alive was a problem. How could they divert their attention to lightning manipulation? Divine might technique? This was only good for scaring low-rank opponents, but it was completely useless against high-rank opponents. Brick? Sigh. Only when encountering a powerful foe did Lin realize that he had pitifully few trump cards to use. Miao Tian, Zhong Yongyin, and the others could only hold him back a little. The only ones who could unleash a decisive attack were Lin and Xiao Cho. He had no choice but to fight with his life on the line. A ferocious expression appeared on Lin's face. He didn't defend but attacked instead, stabbing his evil slaying sword through the air. He couldn't unleash the other advantages of this pseudo-divine tool, but it was extremely sharp. Whoosh! Blood splattered in front of Lin's body. Even with the protection of his Earth Lotus Supreme skill, he was still sliced open by the black streak of light, which extended from his shoulder all the way to his waist. The man was also caught off guard, and the evil slaying sword pierced through his chest. Xiao Cho took advantage of this opportunity to smash his staff toward his head. The silver staff was extremely fast and imbued with boundless power. If the man tried to take it head-on, his skull might have been shattered. However, right at this moment, his body twisted like a snake again. Ding! And Lin flicked his left finger, and a crimson nail pierced through the air, shooting toward the head of the man who had just finished twisting his body. This nail was the immortal tool, the realm-piercing nail. The realm-piercing nail couldn't break through space or shatter spell formations in his hands. However, it still retained its sharpness and ability to follow one's heart. The nail instantly pierced through the man's head, leaving a trail of blood in its wake. Wind spirit. Rings of wind wrapped around Lin's feet. His body suddenly sped up and arrived in front of the man in a flash. The bloody hole in the man's head was wriggling. Clearly, that move wasn't enough to kill him. This was also why Lin had sped up and rushed in front of him. He wanted this moment of stagnation. Die! And Lin roared as his evil-slaying sword unleashed an extremely pure black sword projection. The sword light flashed, and the man's body was cut in half. As blood sprayed out, he did not stop. The evil-slaying sword unleashed a series of sword projections that sliced the body into several dozen pieces. Hoo! He panted heavily, and his body swayed. It was obvious that he was exhausted. You guys come and finish him off. Who knows how to use fire? Come and roast him again. And Lin looked at the piece of flesh on the ground that could no longer be called a body. Although Lin's request was a little cruel, everyone expressed their agreement with a solemn expression. Luo Zipping unleashed his flame blast technique and roasted the piece of flesh on the ground. And Lin pulled out blood-replenishing pills from his storage ring and gave Xiao Chou a few before swallowing a few himself. He was severely injured. These blood-replenishing pills could only stabilize his condition at most. It was impossible for him to recover in a short period of time. At this moment, a mechanical voice suddenly sounded. Trial of bloodline completed. Immediately afterward, their vision darkened and lit up. Everyone once again found themselves in a pure white space. Within this space, there was a black ball. Mountain quaking fist. And Lin roared as his mountain quaking fist smashed toward the black ball. Everyone was initially shocked by Lin's actions. Then, they felt that he had done a great job. Boom! A powerful explosion erupted, but the black ball remained completely unscathed. Ding! The realm-piercing nail struck the black ball and emitted a sharp screeching sound, but it was still unable to break through its defenses. Oi! How can you destroy public property? Bai Ling reappeared with a displeased expression. That's none of your business. Come and hit me if you dare. And Lin was already pissed off by Bai Ling F***CK. He hadn't even gotten back at her for playing deaf and screwing him over. He slashed toward the black ball with his evil-slaying sword as he spoke. Whoosh! A white figure flashed to his side. Slap! A palm flew through the air and struck him in the face. He spat out a mouthful of blood before crashing to the ground. Bai Ling's expression was as cold as ice, and her arm was still in a slapping position. Everyone was dumbstruck. Holy F***CK. How could she hit someone? Wait, why did she have a physical body? The most dumbstruck person was Lin. He rubbed his swollen face as he crawled to his feet. He stared at Bai Ling with incredulity, as if he had seen a ghost. You told me to hit you. Bai Ling chuckled coldly. You? I thought you didn't have a physical body? And Lin stared at the woman before him in a fluttering white dress. Who said the embodiment of the Research Institute's mastermind couldn't have a physical body? Also, how would you know how advanced the Purple Star's technology has become? Even though this is an abandoned research institute, it still has a purpose for its existence. So don't try to do anything irrational. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Bai Ling glared at Lin as she spoke. She was clearly very displeased with what he had just done. Then accept the bloodline inheritance now, Bai Ling suddenly said. We refuse to accept the inheritance. Please let us out. And Lin spoke with a sincere expression. Everyone nodded in agreement. Bloodline inheritance? Then turn into a perverted idiot who used his spine as a weapon? What a joke. All right, then let the inheritance begin. Bai Ling smiled lightly. Immediately afterward, the black ball shone its light onto everyone. F***CKU. Do you understand human language? We want to get out. And Lin was enraged. Bai Ling was pretending to be deaf and dumb again. F***CKU. Bai Ling shrugged. We don't have any F***CK, you bloodlines here. Don't worry, What you're going to receive this time is definitely a man-made bloodline from our research institute. Everyone, they felt like they couldn't communicate with Bai Ling anymore. I'm meat on the chopping block. That's probably what she was trying to say. Everyone heaved a collective sigh. There was nothing they could do. They could only see who was lucky enough to hit the jackpot. Of course, it would be best if no one hit the jackpot. A film of light enveloped everyone, and everyone looked at each other nervously for fear that someone would close their eyes out of nervousness. Thankfully, everyone seemed to be quite normal. Nothing like Sun Xinglian had happened. Just as Lin was heaving a sigh of relief, Bai Ling's eyes suddenly lit up. Congratulations, you've received a rare golden crow bloodline inheritance. This is a super powerful inheritance. Bai Ling pointed at Lin, and Lin's expression faltered as he pointed at himself. Bai Ling shook her head and pointed at Lin's pocket. Right at this moment, and Lin's pocket trembled and a little red head popped out. A sweet voice sounded. You're so noisy. Can't you let me sleep? Who's talking nonstop in my head? Lin, F***CK. How could he have forgotten about this invisible little girl? Chapter 126. Xiao Hong, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Lin asked anxiously. He was afraid that Xiao Hong would transform into a monster at the slightest provocation after receiving the bloodline inheritance. That would really ruin her image. I feel so hot. Should I transform into my human form? Xiao Hong spoke in a groggy voice, as if she had just woken up. Feel hot. Transform? And Lin shuddered. No need. That's it for now. If she really did transform, at that time, it wouldn't be Xiao Hong who would feel hot. It would be in Lin and the others. If you have any other symptoms, remember to tell me immediately, and Lin suddenly added. Xiao Hong nodded obediently and went back into his pocket to sleep. Bai Ling's body dispersed like particles of light and disappeared on the spot. After a moment of dizziness, Lin and the others returned to their original spot. Big brother I think we should go back, Miao Tian suggested in a quiet voice. The bloodline trial was already extremely perilous. If it wasn't for Lin's desperate gamble, all of them would have died there. Not to mention that unreasonable Bai Ling, it was as if she was constantly digging holes for them to jump into, making them lose all desire to continue. Lin nodded. Both he and Xiao Cho had yet to recover from their injuries. Not taking into account other factors, if they were to encounter another trial as difficult as the bloodline trial, they would all die here. Let's go back, and Lin said. Then they began to walk back. After passing through the gate, they were greeted by a small plaza filled with artistic sculptures. F***CK. And Lin's eyelids twitched upon seeing this, and he immediately cursed out loud. Without a doubt, they had never been to this place before. F***CK. Were we tricked again? And Lin looked around nervously, afraid that a white-clothed Bai Ling would suddenly jump out and tell them that they had entered another trial. Everyone stood on the spot and held their breaths for a minute. They couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when they discovered that nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Gosh, this place is really unreasonable, isn't it? Miao Tian patted her chest, a look of lingering fear on her face. If we go back the way we came, we can go to a different secret chamber. How are we going to get back to the exit? Zhong Yongyan frowned, and Lin also had a helpless look on his face. In any case, we can't stay where we are. Everyone circled around the small square, but did not find anything. As for those sculptures, some of them were extremely strange, and some of them were extremely beautiful, full of artistic feeling. Other than that, there was nothing special about it. And Lin paid extra attention and took photos of all the sculptures on the plaza with a solar-powered camera. These days, photographic crystals were too expensive. Cameras were more practical. After that, they entered another door. After stepping through the door, everyone was stunned once again. They came to a strange place. His surroundings were no longer a confined space, but a vast expanse of primordial chaos. There was no up, down, left, or right. There was no spatial distance. And Lin had seen this scene when he stepped through the southern heavenly gate and was teleported to Earth. In the distance, a small white ball floated in the air. Connecting the small ball to them was a 100-meter-long wooden bridge. A sense of foreboding welled up in Lin's heart. Sure enough, a woman in a flowing white dress suddenly appeared with a smile on her face. Welcome to the trial of destruction. The survival rate for this trial is 0%. You just have to cross this wooden bridge and inject your vital energy into the small white ball to complete the trial. If you succeed, everyone will receive the orthodox inheritance of the 88th Research Institute. Everyone, and Lin, I have something to say, but I'm not sure if I should say it. A gentle smile appeared on Bai Ling's face as she nodded. All right, you've agreed to the trial, right? Then, I wish you all good luck. Bai Ling's body disappeared again as she spoke. And Lin, everyone, big brother, and doesn't that be Astra's TCH have a physical body? Next time we see her, don't waste your breath. We'll just go up and beat her up. Luo's zipping flared up with rage. That'll have to wait until we get out of here alive. Didn't you hear? The survival rate for this trial is 0%. Zhong Yongyan lamented with a distressed expression. This meant that all the cultivators who had come here had died. That only means that all the cultivators who came here before were too weak. It doesn't mean that there's no way to pass this trial. Let me take the lead this time. Xiao Chou hefted his silver staff and strode toward the wooden bridge. Wait, Lin called out to Xiao Chou. Let me see if there's anything strange about this place. He pulled out a spirit stone from his storage ring as he spoke and tossed it toward the Hongmeng area outside the wooden bridge. Sizzle, the spirit stone was instantly pulverized. He then tossed another spirit stone toward the wooden bridge. A streak of light suddenly burst forth from the white ball. This streak of light was extremely fast, and the spirit stone was instantly pulverized upon being struck. Everyone's brows furrowed upon seeing this. This streak of white light was extremely fast, and they had no way of dodging it. And Lin pulled out his demonic blood dragon saber upon seeing this. This was a high-rank magic tool that was extremely sturdy. Even a soul formation stage cultivator would find it difficult to shatter. He looked at the saber with a pained expression before tossing it toward the wooden bridge. Whoosh! Another streak of white light that was too fast for the naked eye struck the demonic blood dragon saber. Then, the high-rank magic tool, the demonic blood dragon saber, completely disappeared from the wooden bridge like dust. Everyone, terrifying attack speed and unstoppable attack power. They finally knew why it was called the Trial of Destruction. Nothing could escape the fate of being reduced to dust. Even the apocalypse wasn't that powerful. No wonder it was a trial with a 0% chance of survival. There was no hope at all. Xiao Chou sniffed the air with his upturned nose and silently walked back. There was no point in continuing this trial. He should just stand by the side and bask in the sun. I feel like even breaking down the door behind us wouldn't be as difficult as crossing that bridge, Sun Xinglian said in a faint voice. Everyone's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and they really did break down the door 3 minutes later. Everyone lay on the ground, panting heavily with tears in their eyes. CK, the door was too hard. Ice, fire, water, earth, wind, sword, saber, fist, kick. Everything that could be used was used, but the door made of God knows what material was used was completely unscathed. Are we going to be trapped here until we die? The rims of Miao Tian's eyes were red, and her delicate face was full of grievance. She bit down on her lower lip, trying her best not to cry. Everyone, let's think of something together. And Lin tried his best to pull himself together as he encouraged everyone. Although that was what he said, no one could think of anything and could only remain silent on the side. At this moment, Zhong Yongyan suddenly waved his fan. The white ball's attack speed is fast and it's powerful, but the gap between the attacks might be something we can overcome. Everyone's eyes lit up upon hearing this. That's right, such a powerful attack would need to be charged up, right? And Lin tossed a spirit stone toward the wooden bridge, and the white ball instantly shattered. He tossed another spirit stone toward the wooden bridge, and the white ball instantly shattered as well. And Lin was unconvinced and tossed out over 100 spirit stones at once. Whoosh! Over 100 rays of light shot out at once. He tossed out another few hundred spirit stones. Whoosh! A few hundred rays of light shot out at once. Everyone fell silent again. Zhong Yongyan nodded as he waved his fan. There's no gap between attacks, and it can accurately strike multiple targets at once. We're dead for sure. Miao Tian's tears dripped onto the ground as she added. Chapter 127. Everyone was completely disheartened as they lay on the ground like salted fish. Am I going to starve to death here before I even have a chance to shine? Luo Zipping looked around at the vast expanse of nothingness. I haven't even seen my idol yet, Xiao Chou said regretfully. Sigh, I haven't read enough books. Zhong Yongyan's expression was melancholy. I've never been in a relationship before. Miao Tian's eyes welled up with tears. I've only just obtained an inheritance. What a waste of my happiness. This ruin is a complete scam. Sun Shulian's chest heaved up and down with rage. Lin massaged his brows. Are you guys giving up already? What else? Miao Tian looked at Lin. All of the team members also turned to look at Lin. Lin's head was also a mess, and he couldn't think of a solution. He slapped his forehead and laid down on the ground, heaving a long sigh. He didn't want to speak anymore. Sigh, what the hell is this little white ball? It can fire an unlimited number of cannons, and it's so powerful too. Wouldn't it be invincible if I used it as a weapon? Luo Zipping complained after a long while. Weapon? Unlimited number of cannons? And Lin's eyes lit up, and he jumped up. Let me do an experiment. All of the team members were given a fright by his sudden resurrection. And Lin pulled out a black brick from his storage ring. That's right, a chaotic alloy brick. The hardest thing in the world. It's all up to you now. He looked at the black brick in his hand with a pained expression. Everyone was perplexed. Why did their team leader bring out a brick? And Lin was extremely nervous. Without the black brick, he would lose the blue sky. But in order to survive, he had to give it a try. Black brick? Let's go. And Lin made up his mind and tossed the black brick toward the wooden bridge. The white ball immediately reacted and shot a white light toward the black brick. Boom! A loud explosion erupted for the first time. The black brick was struck by the white light, and a powerful energy fluctuation erupted. Immediately afterward, the black brick was completely unscathed. All of the team members were dumbstruck, and Lin laughed heartily. Immediately afterward, the white ball released a white light. Boom, 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 boom. The black brick continued to take hits, but it continued to stand firm. Let the storm be more violent. And Lin saw a glimmer of hope and yelled, Grow! Big! 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 The black brick grew larger, becoming a super huge black brick that was 30 feet tall. The white orb seemed to be provoked, and the frequency at which it released white light increased. A loud boom reverberated through the air. However, the chaotic alloy brick was black and hard, so it remained unscathed in the face of the white glow's attack. That's amazing. Big brother, and what's with that brick of yours? It's able to ignore the white ray of light's attack. Luo Zipping was dumbstruck. Zhong Yongyan pondered for a moment before pulling out a spirit stone from his storage ring and tossing it toward the back of the black brick. With a flash of white light, the spirit stone turned into powder. He sighed softly. It seemed that the ability to strike multiple targets still existed. What should we do next? The clown looked at Lin and asked. Even though the black brick could ignore the white ball's attack, no one was able to cross the bridge and inject their vital energy into the white ball. And Lin sat on the ground with a calm expression. Wait. The clown scratched his head in confusion. All of the other team members also turned to look at Lin with curiosity in their eyes. And Lin smiled. I don't know what this white ball is, but I don't think it has an endless supply of energy. No matter how powerful a person is, they would need to catch their breath after using too many techniques, let alone a tool like this. Zhong Yongyan also came to a realization. You're saying we wait for the white ball to run out of energy? That's right. And Lin nodded. All of the team members understood what Lin was saying, and their hopes were reignited. Indeed, there was nothing that could attack continuously without catching its breath. This wasn't a perpetual motion machine, so it had to abide by the law of conservation of energy. But how long will it take for it to run out of energy? Sun Shulian hesitated momentarily before asking. Everyone fell into silence again when they heard this. This was a very important question. What if this white ball could keep firing for 10,000 years? When that time came, there would only be a pile of white bones left, as well as a black brick that was constantly being bombarded, and Lin couldn't do anything about this. He smiled and said, "Anyway, this is the only way left. Let's just wait." Waiting was very boring, so they had to find something to do to pass the time. And Lin pulled out a board game from his storage ring. "Let's play werewolf," he suggested. Everyone faltered slightly upon hearing this. What the hell was this? However, after Lin finished explaining the rules, everyone's interest was clearly piqued. Because there were too few people, and Lin woke Xiaohong up and told her to transform into human form to play with them. Xiaohong transformed into human form as instructed. She wore the red dress that Su Xiaolan had given her, and her dress was as red as fire and as gorgeous as a peach blossom. Zhong Yongyan and Luo Zipping were completely dumbfounded by Xiaohong's stunning appearance. After a long while, they came to their senses and looked at Lin enviously. Because there were only 7 people, Lin decided on the following lineup: 2 werewolves, 3 villagers, a witch, and a judge. The game was divided into 2 camps, werewolves and villagers. The villagers would vote to kill all the werewolves to win. The werewolf camp hid among the villagers and won by killing and voting at night. The judge was the referee. The witch could poison people to death and save people, so she was in the same lineup as the villagers. Apart from a judge, no one knew each other's identities. Even the werewolves only knew the identities of their own people. So this game was completely based on deduction and acting. Lin was the judge first, and everyone began to play after a few rounds. After that, they began to have a lot of fun. Bam, 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 bam. The background music was the sound of white balls firing cannons and hitting black bricks, which sounded like a hip-hop song. Xiaohong was usually a very obedient flower, but after being killed by the werewolves, she had completely turned into a drama queen. Everything she acted was so real that it was hard to tell what was real and what was fake. It was a nightmare for the enemy. Even Lin was extremely shocked, as if he was getting to know Xiaohong all over again. Her control over her own micro-expressions and her analysis of other people's micro-expressions were superb. In some aspects, Xiaohong was indeed a genius. After a long while, a figure in a white dress suddenly appeared beside Lin, giving him a fright. 2 werewolves, 3 villagers, and 1 witch. This kind of lineup doesn't make sense. According to the calculations of the mainframe, under the same circumstances, the probability of the villagers winning is 46. 7,649%. Everyone stared at Bai Ling with astonishment on their faces. They didn't know why she had suddenly appeared and said this. Bai Ling ignored everyone's gazes, and there was a hint of excitement in her eyes. If there are 2 werewolves for villagers and 1 witch, the balance of the game will be much better. Lin grimaced upon hearing this, and he forced himself to calm down. "So what you're saying is?" "Count me in," Bai Ling said. "I refuse." Lin replied without hesitation. "Bai Ling, big brother did you forget what I just said?" Luo Zipping reminded him. Everyone's eyes lit up, and they instantly came to their senses as their battle intent soared to the heavens. Mountain quaking fist, wind/trapping formation, eat my Xiao Cho staff, flashing spirit sword, white absolute wheel, crimson demon heavy fist. Bai Ling heaved a faint sigh as a resigned expression appeared on her face. Thump, 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 bang, bang, bang. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Puff, puff, puff. Aside from Xiaohong, who didn't know what was going on, everyone else was lying on the ground with bruised and swollen faces 3 minutes later. Everyone closed their eyes. Bai Ling and Xiaohong opened their eyes and pointed at Zhong Yongyan at the same time as a knowing smile appeared on their faces. Lin remained expressionless. "The sun has risen. Everyone, open your eyes." After everyone opened their eyes, he continued, "Zhong Yongyan, you've been killed. Give a speech." Zhong Yongyan waved his fan and analyzed the case with a serious expression. Thus, the 8 werewolves continued to battle in a joyous and harmonious atmosphere. Chapter 128. Sigh. Xiao Hong won again. Luo's zipping sighed in resignation. That's right, Xiao Hong won. There was no need to differentiate between factions. Whichever faction Xiao Hong was in, that faction would most likely win. Even if she was brutally killed by the werewolves in the first round, she would be able to use all sorts of clues to turn the tables on the werewolves, and her deductions were terrifyingly accurate. Bai Ling massaged her brows. She had already realized that it didn't matter if the formation was uneven or not. The biggest bug was actually Xiao Hong. Big sister Bai, you're actually a human, right? Xiao Hong suddenly spoke with a sly expression. Bai Ling was slightly taken aback, and a hint of a smile appeared on her face. Why do you think so? I can read your emotions and see your soul from your body. Xiao Hong stared at Bai Ling with a captivating gaze. And Lin and the others were completely dumbfounded upon hearing this. Holy F asterisk CK. She can even see souls? Xiao Hong, is this bad asterisk SS? Bai Ling smiled lightly and didn't reply. Instead, she turned to look at the white ball on the wooden bridge. The divine prism bead's energy is about to run out. You have 5 seconds, don't miss it. Everyone who had yet to come back to their senses was stunned again. What was going on? Was that an assist? Since when did Bai Ling become so kind? It wasn't another trap, was it? Seeing everyone's shocked and confused expressions, Bai Ling didn't say anything else and slowly disappeared on the spot. Did they believe her? No matter what, they were going to give it a try as soon as the white ball stopped firing. Bai Ling didn't need to remind them. You guys wait here, I'm going to give it a try, and Lin said. Let's go together. This is our only chance anyways. If it works, then it works. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Miao Tian waved her hand, clearly planning on charging over with Lin. Just as Miao Tian said, this was their only chance. Everyone couldn't bear to let Lin take the risk alone, so they all stood behind him. Seeing their decision, Lin was touched and didn't try to dissuade them. Suddenly, the white ball's cannon fire stopped, and even its color dimmed a little. Wind spirit. Lin's feet were surrounded by rings of wind. His speed increased dramatically as he charged toward the white ball in an instant. Even though Bai Ling had told him that they had 5 seconds, Lin still did his best to shorten the time he had. He covered a distance of over 100 meters in less than 2 seconds. He slapped the white ball with both hands, and his yuan qi surged into it. At this time, everyone had also crossed the wooden bridge and arrived beside Lin. They looked at the ball nervously, afraid that it would suddenly shoot out white light. A mechanical voice echoed in the field. The trial of destruction is completed. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they heard this. They had finally passed this terrifying trial. After a moment of dizziness, they once again arrived in that pure white space. Bai Ling reappeared with a smile on her face. Congratulations on passing the annihilation trial. Now, each of you will receive the bloodline inheritance of the Research Institute. I'll help you choose the most suitable inheritance for you. Her pure white palm slapped towards the pitch-black sphere, and a ray of light shone on everyone. Wind Weasel, Silver Rabbit, Sword Dragon, Demonic Ape, Bai Ling announced as she looked at Zhong Yongyan and the others. Immediately afterward, she turned toward Xiao Chou, and a peculiar light appeared in her eyes. Dark God. She turned toward Lin's pocket. Mirror combination. Finally, she looked at Lin with furrowed brows. The more she looked at him, the more confused she became, as if she had fallen into some kind of dilemma. Lin. Bai Ling pinched her chin and gritted her teeth. What inheritance do you want? Lin faltered slightly before pointing to himself. I can't choose. Bai Ling looked at Lin with a complex expression and sighed. I can't see through you, so I can't choose. So you choose. Lin, can I not accept the inheritance? Bai Ling chuckled lightly. No. What? You don't trust the bloodline inheritance of the Research Institute. You have to understand that the inheritance you are receiving right now is the most advanced inheritance in the Purple Star civilization. Normal people don't even have the right to touch it. She pointed a slender finger toward Lin's forehead as she spoke. Instantly, a vast array of options appeared in Lin's mind, including even the basic characteristics of some bloodlines. He looked at these inheritances and didn't know what to make of them. He thought to himself, I either don't want it, or I'll choose an especially badass one. Just as he was thinking this, a Tao inheritance interface suddenly popped up. The dark heavens shall descend. All things shall perish. A string of information began to pour into his mind. This wasn't a bloodline inheritance. Instead, it was a boundless amount of information that seemed to be branded into Lin's mind. Gotcha! A crisp sound erupted from the black ball as it cracked open. Bai Ling's expression paled for the first time, and she moved her finger away in a panic as she stared at Lin with incredulity in her eyes. At this moment, Miao Tian and the others had already received their inheritances and opened their eyes. They were also shocked to see Bai Ling's expression and the appearance of the black ball. Only Lin scratched his head with an innocent expression. The inheritance isn't over yet. Why is it interrupted? Bai Ling's lips twitched, and she felt extremely aggrieved. Who are you? She stared at Lin, and her voice began to tremble. I'm Lin, a native of Earth and a student of the Celestial Court. Say, are you going to give me the entire inheritance or not? What do you mean by only giving me half of it? Don't you know that it's very uncomfortable to only say half of something? Lin spoke with an expression of displeasure. Bai Ling's face flushed red, and her body began to tremble with rage. Uncomfortable? I'm the one who's uncomfortable. Half of the mainframe's information has been inexplicably stolen by you, and you're acting all innocent. No, piss off. She waved a hand, and Lin and the others felt a rush of dizziness before they found themselves back on the wooden bridge. Lin, what a terrible loss. What did the pangolin say? Everyone, although they didn't know what had happened, they still felt quite satisfied to see Bai Ling angered to such an extent by Lin. A new door appeared in front of everyone. Lin and the others walked in. Then they came to a vast hall. There were tables, chairs, and strange mechanical objects floating in the air. This was a very familiar scene, as this was the hall they had just entered from. We were back. Miao Tian was in disbelief. Sun Xinglian covered her mouth with a smile as a thought occurred to her. This is probably all thanks to Team Leader. Everyone faltered slightly upon hearing this before they all recalled Bai Ling's enraged expression, and knowing smiles appeared on their faces. Could this be the legendary, closing the door and refusing guests? They could only say, big brother and well done. Lin ignored the praise and gratitude from his team members. Instead, he looked at the 5 mechanical objects floating in the air with a peculiar expression. These are technological products from the Biological Bloodline Research Center. The core is the fusion of 100 beasts, which can perfectly fuse the power of technology and bloodlines. It is now separated by a spatial membrane. To open it, I only need to... He gathered vital chi at the tip of his finger and drew a complicated pattern formation on the spatial membrane that separated the Gundam from the human form. The formation then glowed with a dazzling light, which tore open the spatial membrane like a key. Lin stowed the Gundam into his storage ring without any hesitation. Immediately afterward, he made his way to another mechanical object and repeated his actions. Bai Ling was in the process of repairing the black ball when she discovered what Lin was doing, and she almost threw up a mouthful of blood from rage. Lin, you've gone too far, she yelled as she waved a hand through the air. The door connecting the hall to the outside world suddenly opened. Lin and his team members, who had just finished stowing away the second Gundam, were flung out of the door by a powerful force. They didn't even have time to blow the horn to summon the horned dragons to open the door. Chapter 129. After sending Lin and the others away, the gates of the Research Institute closed, and the interior returned to a deathly silence. Bai Ling repaired the black ball with her palms as a desolate expression appeared on her face. Is this the only way the Biological Bloodline Research Center can display its value? What a pitiful ruin. I wonder when the next batch of trial takers will arrive. But even if new people come, there probably won't be any more interesting trial takers, right? Then, as if she had thought of something, she pursed her lips into a smile, and the ice on her face melted away as a vibrant smile appeared on her face. However, no one would be able to see this scene in the deathly silent Research Institute. and Lin and the others were knocked out of the lake by a burst of power and tumbled onto the grassy ground beside the lake. Luo zipping spat out the grass that he had accidentally eaten. Big Brotherin, I really have to hand it to you this time. Not only did you force Bai Ling to close the door, but you even banished her from the country. You're invincible. And Lin's lips twitched. Was classmate Luo complimenting him? But the air outside is so good, I feel so relaxed. Zhong Yongyan lay on the grass and looked up at the sky as he breathed in and out. And we all reaped great rewards this time, didn't we? Miao Tian narrowed her eyes and smiled sweetly. Everyone smiled and nodded with a satisfied look on their faces. That bloodline inheritance at the end was really useful. Only Lin had a regretful expression on his face. The information he received was forcefully cut off, as if the text had been abruptly cut off. Sigh, what did the pangolin say after that? There was a huge commotion at the bottom of the lake. A huge dragon emerged from the water and looked at Lin and the others with surprise. It transformed back into a middle-aged man and walked toward Lin and the others. Mr. Lin, how did you guys get out? The man rubbed his eyes as he surveyed them, and Lin smiled bitterly. We were chased out. The owner inside doesn't seem to like us, so he pushed us out. The man opened his mouth, but when he saw the seriousness on everyone's faces and saw that they didn't seem to be lying, he could only squeeze out a sentence. There's such a thing? What kind of crazy things have you guys done? Ever since he started guarding the White Cloud Lake, he had never seen any group of cultivators who entered the ruins enjoy the treatment of being expelled, and Lin could only laugh dryly. He was too embarrassed to say what he had done inside. Seeing that he didn't want to talk about it, the man changed the topic to what he was most concerned about. Which one of you accepted the inheritance? Everyone looked at each other and nodded in unison. The man blinked. What do you mean? It means that they have all accepted the inheritance, and Lin replied. They all accepted the inheritance. The man's dragon horn stood on end, and his face was filled with disbelief. Not only that, Sun Xinglian and Lil Red have also received 2 inheritances. And Lin curled his lips. If it wasn't for the fact that this man was the one who led them into the ruins, he wouldn't have bothered to say so much to him. My God, was this a dream? To think that I, Jiang Anlin, would be able to witness everyone accepting the inheritance. Jiang Anlin yelled and laughed with excitement. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, wondering what was wrong with this man. Why was he so surprised? Did you guys pass the trial with a 0% survival rate? Jiang Anlin's eyes suddenly lit up even brighter than a clown's. Everyone nodded. During the process of accepting the inheritance, was there a message branded into your mind? Jiang Anlin's breathing accelerated. Everyone looked at each other and nodded. Ha, that's great, ha. Jiang Anlin yelled and laughed as he danced with joy. And Lin's lips twitched. Is he crazy? All the team members nodded in agreement. Even if he wasn't crazy, he wasn't far from it. After dancing with joy for a while, Jiang Anlin finally realized that he had lost his composure. He forced himself to calm down, but his voice was still a little urgent. Come with me to see Master Tianyu and tell her the message branded into your mind. She will reward you handsomely. Master Tianyu? Zhong Yongyan's pupils contracted as if a thought had occurred to him. The Master Tianyu you're referring to is the Celestial Thearcha's daughter, Celestial Maiden Tianyu? That's right, Jiang Anlin added with a smile. I'm sure none of you will refuse the handsome reward she's talking about, right? The Celestial Thearch was the most powerful being in the Celestial Court. He ruled over the entire Kingdom of the 9 States and was the paramount being in the Kingdom of the 9 States. Apparently, he had 7 daughters, the youngest of whom was given the Taoist title of Tianyu. She was nimble and kind, and the Celestial Thearch doted on her the most. If the handsome rewards Celestial Maiden Tianyu was talking about were true, then this was definitely an extremely rare opportunity. Everyone was extremely excited when they heard this, and they practically didn't hesitate to agree. Jiang Anlin also breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing Lin and the others agree so readily. Master Tianyu is at the summit of the Cloud Mountain. Please come with me. The summit of the Cloud Mountain? And Lin faltered slightly, and the other team members also seemed to have realized that something was amiss. Everyone then turned to look at Lin. Didn't this idiot go bungee jumping at the summit of the Cloud Mountain? And Lin's heart sank even further. At the summit of the Cloud Mountain, there was a small paradise, and there was a woman named Lin Junjun there. There didn't seem to be anyone else there. Mr. Jiang, is Celestial Maiden Tianyu the only one at the summit of the Cloud Mountain? And Lin asked anxiously. Jiang Amlin looked at Lin in confusion, not knowing why he would ask such a question. However, after a moment of hesitation, he still answered truthfully. That's right. Master Tianyu often cultivates the Tao of painting at the summit of the Cloud Mountain. Normal people don't have the right to go there. Cultivate the Tao of painting? Was he going to draw that funny crane? There was no mistaking it. It had to be her. And Lin's lips twitched. He was the normal person Jiang Amlin was referring to. However, not only did he barge into someone else's courtyard, he even mocked her painting F***CK. If he went back to that place again, he was definitely screwed. Cold sweat poured down his back whenever he thought back to the scene of Lin Junjun pummeling him. No, he definitely couldn't go there. Ow. And Lin rubbed his stomach with a pained expression and slowly sat down. Are you all right, Mr. Lin? Jiang Amlin ran over to him with a concerned expression on his face. My stomach suddenly feels a little uncomfortable and my legs are a little weak. I can't walk. How about you guys go to the summit of the Cloud Mountain? I need to rest. And Lin spoke with great difficulty with a pained expression. Jiang Amlin touched Lin's stomach, and a warm feeling flowed through Lin's entire body. He then furrowed his brows. That's strange, Mr. Lin. I don't sense any illness or abnormalities in your body. Perhaps there are some unclean things in the ruins. And Lin narrowed his eyes and grimaced. Jiang Amlin was shocked to hear this. Then we can't wait any longer. How can the poisonous things in the ruins be underestimated? Master Tianyu's medical skills are profound. Let's go. I'll get her to treat you. And Lin's pupils contracted. Holy F***CK. Get her to treat me? Violent beating therapy? Boom. Jiang Amlin transformed into a massive horned dragon over 100 feet in length and rose into the air. Immediately afterward, a gust of wind blew everyone into the air and onto his back. Chains of cloud and mist then burst forth and bound everyone in place, making it impossible for them to break free, including Lin. Don't worry, Mr. Lin. I'll definitely get you to Master Tianyu as soon as possible for treatment. The horned dragon rose into the air as he spoke and flew toward the summit of the Cloud Mountain. I'm not at ease at all. You can actually slow down. And Lin spoke in a low voice with tears in his eyes. As he looked at the approaching Cloud Mountain, he knew he was done for. Chapter 130. At the summit of the Cloud Mountain, peach blossoms bloomed as a gentle breeze blew past. After painting for a good few hours, Lin Junjun stretched lazily. She straightened her back, and her white Taoist robe accentuated her perfect curves. Right at this moment, her voice transmission talisman flashed again. Yes, what's up? She picked up the voice transmission talisman, and a deep male voice sounded, Master Tianyu, the group of trial takers have all returned. Also, they have all received inheritances from the ruins. Lin Junjun faltered slightly upon hearing this. Then an expression of pleasant surprise appeared on her face. She understood what it meant for everyone to have received inheritances from the ruins. Quick, bring them all here, Lin Junjun said excitedly. Master Tianyu, I'll be waiting outside the spell formation, Jiang Amlin said. Lin Junjun opened the spell formation without hesitation upon hearing this. She thought about it for a moment. Receiving important guests like this didn't seem grand enough. Thus, she waved her sleeve. Instantly, peach blossoms danced in the air. They were like the most vibrant red clouds swirling around the mountain peak. This was a scene that she loved very much, and it was perfect for welcoming the guests. That's right. She hoped that these heroes would make a good first impression. Then, Lin Junjun stood with a smile on her face. The huge dragon whistled through the clouds and flew to the summit of the Cloud Mountain. She saw the person she was going to receive. That familiar face, that person who could evoke nightmarish memories in her mind. Lin Junjun was dumbstruck. She had forgotten what she was supposed to do as a host, and she stood there in a daze, feeling as if her heart had been crushed by 10,000 mythological beasts. The huge dragon transformed back into its human form, and then Lin and the others began to descend. Jiang Amlin was slightly taken aback upon seeing Lin Junjun standing there in a daze, but he didn't think too much of it. Instead, he pulled Lin over to Lin Junjun. Master Tianyu, Mr. Lin suddenly felt unwell after returning from the ruins. I hope you can diagnose him. Lin Junjun came to her senses and looked at the fawning Lin with her bright eyes. She seemed to have understood something as she asked in a meaningful voice, "Oh, Mr. Lin isn't feeling well? All right, I'll help you diagnose him." As she spoke, she stretched out her fair little hand towards Lin. And Lin was so frightened that his hair stood on end. He exclaimed, "No need, no need. I suddenly feel much better now. My waist isn't sore, and my legs aren't hurting anymore." As he spoke, he performed a set of military boxing. Jiang Amlin's eyes widened. "Mr. Lin, are you really all right?" "I'm fine now. I'm alive and kicking." And Lin forced himself to focus. His military boxing was as vigorous as a tiger's. "I think Captain is in for a romantic disaster." Zhong Yongyan waved his fan and said indifferently. Miao Tian and the others all nodded solemnly. They weren't fools. When they saw the nervous look on their captain's face, as well as the dagger hidden behind Fairy Tianyu's smile, they guessed that their captain might have gotten into trouble while bungee jumping. Miao Tian seemed to have thought of something and hugged onto Xiao Chao's arm tightly. "Big Brother Cho, when we're deported, you have to take me with you. Otherwise, I'm going to die." That's right. Within Lin's personality, it was very likely that they would be deported. If they were deported, they would only have to lie on the ground and graze on grass. But if they were deported by Fairy Tianyu, they were going to be facing an extremely high altitude. Xiao Cho, in contrast to Lin's panic, Lin Junjun quickly regained control of the situation. "Mr. Lin, do you think this is fate?" Lin Junjun clasped her hands behind her back as a mischievous expression appeared on her face. And Lin forced a smile onto his face. "That's right, what a coincidence. We meet again. Seeing as fate has brought us together, why don't we have some tea together and chat?" Lin Junjun looked at Lin with a smile on her face, but didn't say anything. And Lin's heart trembled under her gaze, but he didn't dare to make any movements. F***CK. If this was the Lin Junjun of the past, he could at least curse at her if he couldn't beat her. But now, she was Fairy Tianyu, the most beloved daughter of the Celestial Arch. Curse at her, then prepare yourself for the most tragic outcome. He could only be a little white rabbit. That's right, he could only be a little white rabbit. "Master Tianyu, so you're acquainted with Mr. Lin?" "Ha, that makes things much easier." Jiang Amlin chuckled heartily with a gratified smile. "That's right. I've met him before, and I've even discussed the Tao of painting with him." Lin Junjun nodded, and Lin's face convulsed, and he didn't know what to say. Discuss the Tao of painting? One of them was laughing maniacally while the other was hitting him maniacally? That's great. Seeing as we're acquaintances, let's sit down and have a good chat. Jiang Amlin waved his hand, and an intricate table and close to 10 chairs appeared. Lin Junjun nodded with a slight smile. "Sure. Let's sit down and have a good chat." And Lin was rooted to the spot. What was going on? When did this woman's temper become so good? She wasn't hitting him anymore? Lin Junjun looked at the dumbfounded Lin and thought to herself, "I'm a graceful and quiet woman. How could I hit him in front of everyone? Wouldn't that be destroying my own image?" Furthermore, cultivating the Tao of painting required a calm and collected heart, and one couldn't get angry easily. Even if one's enemy was standing right in front of them, they still had to calm down and not lose their dignity. If they wanted to hit him, they had to wait until there was no one around. Everyone sat around the table, and Lin Junjun spoke with a smile. "I'm sure you all know who I am now. Tell me all the information that has been branded into your minds, and I'll reward you according to the value of the information." "Then I'll go first." Miao Tian was the first to speak. Then, she used her slender fingers to carve out a complex an abstruse formation on the table. This is what was branded into my mind when I received the inheritance. She pointed at the formation. Lin Junjun looked at the formation with a satisfied expression. A brush appeared in her hand, and she began to carve on the white paper. She smiled. This is a formation related to bloodline fusion. Jiang Anlin, go to the treasure vault and give this cultivator an elementary rank spirit tool. Miao Tian's eyes lit up. She didn't think that this inexplicable formation in her mind would be worth the price of an elementary rank spirit tool. This was equivalent to tens of thousands of spirit stones appearing out of thin air. I'll do it as well. Luo Zipping couldn't help but write a strange symbol on the table. Lin Junjun copied the symbol on the table onto the white paper and spoke in a gentle voice. This is a curse to solidify one's consciousness. You can go to the treasure vault and receive a second-grade spirit pill. A second-grade spirit pill was a bit less valuable than an elementary rank spirit tool, but it was still quite a good item. Luo Zipping was also very satisfied with it. Immediately afterward, Zhong Yongyan received a second-grade spirit pill. Sun Xinglian received a third-grade spirit pill and an elementary rank spirit tool. Xiao Chou received an elementary rank spirit tool, and Xiao Hong received a second-grade spirit pill and an elementary rank spirit tool. Everyone had received quite a lot of rewards, and they were all grinning from ear to ear. The information that they thought was useless was exchanged for these treasures for free. How could they not be happy? Then it's your turn, Cultivator and Lin. You're their team leader, so you must have some very valuable information, right? Lin Junjun raised her eyebrows slightly, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly as she spoke in a gentle voice. And Lin scratched his head and smiled sheepishly. I do have some, but I'm afraid you guys will go bankrupt if I tell you. Lin Junjun's eyelids twitched. What do you mean? Chapter 131. And Lin shrugged. I mean exactly what I said. I'm afraid you don't have enough treasures to give me. Lin Junjun's chest tightened upon hearing this. And Lin, are you purposely trying to piss me off? Hee. Just tell me everything you know. If I even furrow my brows, I'll concede. Lin Junjun's eyes flashed as she stared at Lin with a hint of battle intent in her eyes. Lin didn't waste any more words and drew a formation. Lin Junjun copied his formation onto a piece of white paper. She nodded with approval after drawing, but there was a victorious smile on her face. Not bad. This is a bloodline enhancement formation, and I'll be able to obtain an intermediate rank spirit tool from Jiang Amlin's treasure vault. A faint smile appeared on Lin Junjun's face as she spoke. Mr. Lin, do you have any more? And Lin nodded and drew 2 more formations. Lin Junjun was slightly startled, but she maintained a calm expression. Very good. I've gained a lot. You can go to Jiang Amlin's treasure vault and get an intermediate rank spirit tool and an elementary rank spirit tool. Lin was shocked, but he maintained a calm expression. He had casually tossed out 2 trashy formations, yet they were worth so much. He was starting to feel more confident. Then, he drew 10 different array diagrams on the table. Lin Junjun took a deep breath as she looked at the complex and mysterious formations. She could show weakness, but she couldn't frown. After drawing 10 formations on a piece of paper, she said, you can go to Jiang Amlin's treasure vault and get 3 intermediate rank spirit tools and 7 elementary rank spirit tools. Jiang Amlin's body trembled upon hearing this. Master Tianyu, I don't have any intermediate rank spirit tools. Lin Junjun was dazed for a moment, but she quickly came to her senses. I remember you have a high rank spirit tool in your treasure vault. It's worth 3 intermediate rank spirit tools. Give it to him. Jiang Amlin's heart throbbed with pain upon hearing this, but he still agreed. All the team members turned to look at Lin with envious eyes. Lin, on the other hand, was calm and collected, and he remained completely unfazed. This made his teammates admire him even more. Look, what is called an aura. Obtaining a dozen or so spirit tools was as normal as eating and drinking. This was their great garden. Seeing as we've gathered all the information, let's go to Jiang Amlin's treasure vault to collect the treasures. Lin Junjun stood up with a smile. Wait, I still have a message. What's the rush? And Lin waved his hand and rolled his eyes at Lin Junjun. Lin Junjun's body swayed as her eyes widened. You have more? And Lin nodded solemnly and wrote a dozen different runes on the table. Lin Junjun. Jiang Amlin was on the verge of tears. Master Tianyu, there are no more spirit tools in the treasure vault. Lin Junjun. Bring out the spirit pill. And Lin smiled and then wrote down a dozen or so experimental theories on bloodline research on the table. Jiang Amlin's breathing accelerated. Master Tianyu, there are no more spirit pills in the treasure vault. Lin Junjun clasped a hand over her heart. Bring out all the precious materials and tool refinement materials. And Lin nodded with a satisfied expression. Then he wrote down a few blueprints on the table. Jiang Amlin's lips trembled. Master Tianyu, there are only spirit stones left in the treasure vault. Lin Junjun's eyes widened and she bit down on her lower lip. She only came to her senses after a long while. Then bring them out. And Lin was very satisfied and then happily wrote down another dozen or so blueprints. Lin Junjun's vision darkened and her paintbrush fell to the ground. Why do you still have blueprints? And Lin blinked. Because I haven't finished writing yet. I was afraid that I would go bankrupt if I wrote too much, so I purposely left some for you. How considerate of Mr. and Lin. Jiang Amlin stared blankly at the blueprints on the table and wanted nothing more than to bang his head into the table. Master Tianyu, the treasure vault has been emptied. Do as you see fit, Jiang Amlin said with a forlorn expression. The dragon tribe was very fond of treasures. The treasures in the treasure vault were like their own children. They were so beautiful and loved. Now that the treasure vault had been emptied, he felt like he had already lost the meaning of his existence. And Lin glanced at Lin Junjun with a suspicious expression. You can't afford it, can you? Lin Junjun was rooted to the spot upon hearing this. She had only come here to comprehend the Tao of painting and didn't bring anything valuable with her. However, Lin had already finished the blueprints, so she couldn't just leave it on credit for now. Who was she? She was the daughter of the celestial Dharch. How could she go back on her word? If she said she would reward him on the spot, she would reward him on the spot. Lin Junjun made up her mind and removed the white gemstone necklace from around her neck. She handed it to Lin and gritted her teeth. This is the Heavenly Spirit Ice Heart, a high-rank protective spirit tool. It's enough for your dozen or so blueprints. And Lin reluctantly accepted the Heavenly Spirit Ice Heart and looked at Lin Junjun as if she were an unscrupulous merchant. Lin Junjun's chest constricted and she almost threw up blood. Who was the one who should be sad? This was her favorite accessory. Now that she had given it to Lin, he still had a look of disdain on his face. And Lin's disdain wasn't without reason. This was a very feminine necklace, and he had no desire to wear it. So how could he not be disdainful? Just like that, he continued to write a dozen or so different types of runes and curses on the table. Lin Junjun was dumbstruck. Jiang Amlin was dumbstruck. Everyone's mouths gaped open as they rubbed their eyes. I think I understand why he was chased out by Bai Ling. Just how much F***king information did he obtain? Luo Zipping exclaimed in disbelief. Did he really obtain all this information? Don't tell me he stole it from the mastermind space? Zhong Yongyan's lips twitched. From the looks of it, he seems to have kept a lot of information, Sun Xinglian said. As expected of Big Brother, you're so domineering. Miao Tian praised as she hugged Xiao Chao's arm tightly. She could already predict what was going to happen next. And Lin blinked at the dumbstruck Lin Junjun. What's wrong? Are you out of stock? Tears welled up in Lin Junjun's eyes as she stubbornly bit down on her lower lip, unable to maintain her composure any longer. That's right. She had never been in such despair before. She was on the verge of a mental breakdown. The most valuable thing she had was the celestial spirit Ice Heart. What else could she sell? Sell herself? And Lin, you came here just to bully me, didn't you? Tears welled up in Lin Junjun's eyes. She was no longer as calm and tranquil as before and had completely transformed into a little girl who had been wronged. She really wanted to beat up Lin, but there were so many people around and she didn't have the face to do so, so she could only endure it. Who would have thought that she would be on the verge of tears now? It's all right, don't cry, I'll just give up on that reward. and Lin wiped the runes off the table as he spoke, making the celestial Thearcha's daughter cry. This was far too shocking. He didn't want to attract trouble, so he could only accept his bad luck and not give up on the reward. However, Lin's sympathy gave Lin Junjun another heavy blow. She wiped her tears and pulled out a piece of paper. She wrote a large U character on it before handing it to Lin. I said I'll give you the reward, so I'll definitely give it to you. Take this U character, and you can go to the Celestial Court and ask them to refine an immortal pill below the 6th grade for free. And Lin held the piece of paper and fell silent. Empty promise? Lin Junjun thought that Lin didn't know how to get to the Celestial Court. So she added, every prefecture in the state has a teleportation spell formation that leads to the Celestial Court. Take this piece of paper and give it to the person on duty at the Celestial Court. They won't dare to stop you. And Lin nodded and put the piece of paper away. He was a student of the Celestial Court anyway, so he could go straight to the Do Shui Palace with no problem. However, the temptation of obtaining an immortal pill for a dozen or so combination runes was quite good. Thus, he turned to Lin Junjun and asked again in a tentative manner, I still have a lot of information. Do you still want it? Lin Junjun's tears flowed like a broken dam. Chapter 132. Lin Junjun burst into tears. She felt like Lin had to be sent by the heavens to test her Dao heart. Although this was the second time she had felt this way, she was responsible for collecting information about the ruins here, and the treasures she paid could be reimbursed by the Celestial Court's treasure vault. Thus, she and Jiang Emlin wouldn't lose anything by paying for the treasures. But that wasn't the point. The point was that she had been wrong to the point where she had no one to talk to. This was supposed to be her home turf, and she was supposed to bestow favors upon everyone with pride. But now, she had become a pauper who couldn't even afford to pay. Did she still have the face to continue writing checks and collecting information? She would be looked down upon by Lin. No, she had already been looked down upon. In front of the man who had once laughed at her, she had once again been utterly defeated. To be honest, Jiang Amlin and the others were at a complete loss for what to do when Lin Junjun suddenly burst into tears. Lin Junjun wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and tossed a white card to Lin. Take this. I'll come back to collect information from you in the future. Jiang Amlin. Take them to the treasure vault to collect the treasures. She returned to her little wooden hut in a daze as she spoke, not even in the mood to see them off. Jiang Amlin nodded with a solemn expression. In reality, all he had to do was take them to the entrance of the treasure vault and give them the key. After all, everything in the treasure vault belonged to them anyway. Just like that, and Lin and the others left the summit of the Cloud Mountain in high spirits. They sat on the back of a 100-foot dragon and descended from the sky. Then, they broke through the surface of the lake and entered a cave abode. There was a soft white glow within the cave abode, and there were 2 large prawns wielding spears standing guard around it. Lin was a little surprised. This was the first time he had seen these large prawns. Beneath the hard shell, the meat was white with a hint of red, and it seemed to be quite delicious. The large prawns were a little uncomfortable from Lin's gaze, and they involuntarily moved away from the glutton. Jiang Amlin stopped in front of a copper door and opened it. What entered everyone's eyes were mountains of spirit stones, dazzling spirit pills, all kinds of natural treasures, artifact refinement materials, and spirit artifacts that emitted powerful auras. Jiang Amlin stared blankly at the pile of treasures and only came to his senses after a long while. He looked at it again with great reluctance, as if he was making his last remembrance. Then he said, "Everything in here is yours." After saying that, he left. After all, his heart wouldn't be able to bear watching others take away his treasures one by one. Looking at the room full of treasures, the team members were all excited. At this time, Lin smiled and said, "You guys pick first. I'll take it after you're done." Hearing this, the team members became excited and began to choose from the treasury. They didn't forget what grade of treasures they were supposed to take. These treasures usually had labels to help them identify them. Miao Tian took an elementary rank spirit tool. The first moon dagger, Sun Shunyan took a 3rd grade spirit pill and an elementary rank spirit tool. The snow jade sword, Zhong Yongyin took a second-grade spirit pill. The clown took an elementary rank protective spirit tool, the black crystal armor, and Xiao Hong took a second-grade spirit pill and an elementary rank spirit tool, the cold rain sword. After taking the items, Xiao Hong placed them into the storage ring and Lin had given her before returning to her storage bag. Immediately afterward, and Lin placed the remaining high-rank spirit tools, 2 intermediate-rank spirit tools, 10 elementary-rank spirit tools, over 20 high-quality spirit pills, a pile of artifact refinement materials, and over 300,000 spirit stones into his storage ring. Seeing this, all the team members gulped. After putting away the items, everyone exited the treasury. Jiang Amlin's heart throbbed with pain when he saw the satisfied expressions on Lin and the others' faces. However, this was what they deserved. With complicated emotions, he escorted everyone out of the cave abode. After returning to the White Cloud Lake, everyone bid farewell to Jiang Amlin and set off on their journey again. Zhong Yongyin waved his fan with a contented expression. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but ever since we started hanging out with Big Brother, and we've had countless miraculous encounters. That's right. Miao Tian's intricate face was filled with joy as she counted on her fingers. First, we got the immortal fruit, then we got the bloodline inheritance, and finally, we got to choose from treasures. It's only been 10 days, but we've already had so many miraculous encounters. We've had more miraculous encounters during this period of time than I've had in the past 10 years combined. Sun Xunglian smiled lightly as the wind swept her hair, making her appear even more beautiful. Luo Zipping laughed heartily. I can only say that as expected of Big Brother, you truly deserve the title of #1 in the school. Everyone was praising Lin to the heavens. Even with his thick skin, he was starting to feel a little embarrassed. At this moment, Xiao Cho walked over and draped an arm over his shoulder. Big Brother, I'm starting to understand why you said that after you go out and explore the world, you'll become much more powerful. After receiving the Dark God's inheritance, I'm already showing signs of breaking through. Thank you. Hearing this, Lin was also overjoyed. Why are you being so polite with me? We're partners. Congratulations. When you break through to spirit nurturing final stage, our team will be able to relax even more. Now that Xiao Cho had donned the black crystal armor, he appeared even more domineering and mighty. Hearing Lin's words, however, he was so touched that he turned his head away, tears welling up in his bulb-like eyes. Lin suddenly thought of something and asked, "Oh right, Xiao Cho, how do you think humans should cultivate after they materialize a beast core?" Xiao Cho was slightly taken aback. How can humans materialize a beast core? That's not the point. The point is, how do they cultivate after they materialize a beast core? Lin asked seriously. Xiao Cho scratched the monkey fur on his head and said hesitantly, "Then we'll cultivate according to the cultivation method of us spirit beasts. But humans who materialize a beast core shouldn't be called humans anymore. They should be called spirit beasts." Hearing this, Lin felt his liver ache. Spirit beast Lin, huh? Xiao Cho continued. The cultivation method of us spirit beasts is different from that of humans. We mainly focus on tempering our beast core, tempering our body, and comprehending our spirit. Tempering our beast core is to absorb the vital energy of heaven and earth every day and allow the vital energy to circulate through our body. This is to continuously temper the beast core in our jade temple. Tempering our beast core is to continuously strengthen our body through daily training, battle, or ingestion of natural treasures, spirit pills, and miraculous medicines. Comprehending our spirit is to comprehend nature, experience the sentience of all things, explore our own consciousness, and comprehend our own domain. However, this is usually something that only spirit-nurturing final stage cultivators can do. Hearing Xiao Chao's words, Lin nodded in agreement. Cultivation for spirit beasts seemed to be much easier than cultivation for humans. However, this was to be expected. Because spirit beasts were usually active in the deep mountains, they didn't have a systematic cultivation method to begin with. They could only rely on their own comprehension to cultivate, so their method of progression was very different from that of humans. If it was tempering his beast core, and Lin could start now. If it was tempering his beast core, why would filthy rich and need to worry about not having natural treasures? As for comprehending his beast core, it's too far away, so let's not think about it for now. Hearing Xiao Chao's words, and Lin understood the direction of his cultivation, and he felt a little less perplexed. So what if you're in Lin? As long as you're awesome, that's fine. Chapter 133. And Lin and the others returned to Ding and City on foot, which took them 5 days. After receiving the inheritances, everyone's strength increased explosively. Along the way, they constantly adapted to and developed the power of their bloodlines. To be honest, the bloodline inheritances that Bai Ling chose for everyone were all very compatible with their own martial Dao. Sun Xingyan received the metal-type inheritance, which greatly improved her swordsmanship. Coupled with the sword dragon bloodline inheritance, her swords were imbued with the might of a dragon, which doubled her combat prowess. Miao Tian's silver rabbit inheritance made her more agile. Whether it was daggers or flywheels, she was more agile and lethal. As for Zhong Yongyan, he specialized in wind immortal spells. The Wind Weasel inheritance simply and crudely increased the power of his immortal spells. The effect was the most obvious. Luo Zipping's demonic ape inheritance made him bigger, taller, and stronger. That's it. Based on Lin's intuition, they should already be around the middle to upper echelons of the immortal rankings board. One had to realize that during the free-for-all battle, only a dozen or so people from their class could enter the immortal rankings board. Apart from Xianyuan Cheng and Su Qinyan and Lin, Su Xiaolan, Lu Zhan, and Lu Yiqing could be ranked in the upper middle of the immortal rankings board. It was all thanks to this inheritance that they were able to reach their current level of strength. They would most likely be able to successfully break through to the spirit nurturing stage soon. As for Xiao Chao's Dark God inheritance, even he himself couldn't tell what had changed. However, he could feel that he had already touched upon the threshold of the spirit-nurturing final stage. As for Xiao Hong's inheritance, she had also shown off her abilities. She said that it was some photosynthesis sunlight and whatnot. One of the light waves had the effect of setting a mountain on fire. In the end, Lin and the others had to use an immortal spell to conjure a rainstorm in accordance with the principle of harmonious coexistence between man and nature. Xiao Hong had probably used a spell related to the Golden Crow bloodline inheritance. As for the Mirror Fusion inheritance, she hadn't figured it out yet. Just like that, everyone hurried back to Ding and City. In the courtyard, Lin and the others reported their results to the Flying Sword God. For the end-of-year test, they only needed to kill 150 exotic beasts. Based on the target of 3,000 exotic beasts in their class, they only needed to kill 150 exotic beasts. But now, Lin's team had already hunted 512 mutant beasts. Out of the 20 teams, they were ranked first. This made the homeroom teacher a little surprised. However, the homeroom teacher quickly came to a realization. Lin and Xiao Chou were already of the spirit-nurturing stage, so it was quite normal for them to achieve such feats. Furthermore, the auras of the other team members also seemed to be a little different from before. The Flying Sword God looked at Lin and the others and nodded with a smile. Looks like you've gained a lot from this trip. Of course. Looks like the champion is going to be our team. And Lin replied proudly, ignoring the hidden meaning behind the homeroom teacher's words. After reporting the results, Lin's team members left the courtyard and returned to their respective residences. During the last 2 days of the end-of-year examination, Lin and the others only hunted exotic beasts around Ding and City. They didn't venture too deep into the Myriad Mountain domain. Even so, after the end-of-year examination, Lin's team still ranked first. Because Lu Zhan's team found a spider lair full of exotic beasts, they ranked second. Next up were Xianyuan Cheng, Su Qinyan, and Su Xiaolan's teams. It had to be said that strength played a crucial role in this examination. Then, Wang Xiaobai's team came in last place unsurprisingly, successfully pulling down the class's target. Apparently, the team leader was even beaten up by the homeroom teacher. Their class killed over 5,100 exotic beasts in total, far exceeding the targets set by the school. A large part of this was due to the beast tide. Of course, it was also due to the students' hard work. Apart from few teams that didn't do well, most of the teams did well. The Flying Sword God was very satisfied with this result. Thus, when they returned to the prefecture of the Stone Dragon State, he exempted the students from having to travel thousands of kilometers in a day. And Lin was actually a little disappointed when he heard this news. He wanted to show off his brick kinesis flight and show off his flying skills. Who would have thought that he wouldn't be able to display his prowess and could only slowly walk along with his classmates? Soon, everyone returned to the United University of Cultivation in the Celestial Court. Their class had obtained an extremely gratifying result. Vice Principal Yu Hua gave a university-wide commendation and also handed out many prizes. These prizes were nothing more than pills, spirit stones, tool refinement materials, and so on. And Lin's team received many of these kinds of prizes. Filthy rich and didn't really care about these prizes, so he distributed them to his team members. His team members were extremely touched and all expressed that they would follow Big Brother from now on. What was worth mentioning was that the fourth-year class also received a university-wide commendation. Apparently, during a battle against the Blood Tribe in the Dark Marshlands, a dozen or so students from their class encountered a desperate situation. During that battle, Wang Xuanzhan broke through to the Soul Formation stage and slew 2 blood gods in one fell swoop. The Blood Tribe army was forced into retreat, and the situation was reversed. This feat made him famous once again in the Celestial Court, and he became a legend among the students. Once the new semester ended, the 5th-year students would begin to leave the university. A portion of the students would choose to remain in the Celestial Court. Of course, there were also a portion of students who would choose to return to their families or sections. The university never interfered with these choices. The Kern and Lin didn't need to think too far into the future. The only thing on his mind right now was that he was about to become a senior and that there were beautiful female students about to enter the university. Just thinking about it made him excited. Xiao Chou also snuck into the university with Lin. He transformed into a small monkey that was about the size of his palm, even though he was still very ugly in his monkey form. His bulb-like eyes, upturned nostrils, crooked mouth, and freckles had already become his trademark. No matter how he transformed, he couldn't change these characteristics. The only good thing about him was that after his body became smaller, his face also became smaller. Thus, he was no longer a frighteningly ugly clown. Instead, he was an adorably ugly clown. When Xiao Chou was bored, he would lie on Lin's shoulder and rest. Of course, most of the time, he would go to Full Moon Mountain to cultivate alone. The vital energy at Xiaoxian United University was much denser than that of the mountain of fruits and flowers, so he liked it here very much. Soon, his first year of university officially came to an end. The 5th-year seniors left the university, and Lin also asked around about Chun Chen's whereabouts. Apparently, he had left the Celestial Court. No one else knew about his sect or family, and no one would care. Thus, where he went after leaving the Celestial Court was still a mystery. And Lin thought that Chun Chen would take the initiative to talk to him about the finger of the heavenly Tao. After all, he had only used it once, and Lin had stolen it. No matter how thick-skinned he was, he couldn't just ignore it. However, Chun Chen really didn't care. He didn't meet with Lin even after graduation. This was actually a good thing. Otherwise, Lin wouldn't know how to explain the finger of the heavenly Tao. Xiaoxian United University was on a holiday. There was still a month before the next semester started. This month was the students' holiday, and Lin had to make good use of this month's time. What should he do first? He suddenly thought of something, and his eyes immediately lit up. Let's go to Do Shui Palace. Chapter 134. To the west of the floating continent, there was a tall and majestic building called the Do Shui Palace. It had 9 white stone pillars supporting the roof, and it looked like a palace that symbolized the majesty of the emperor. The Do Shui Palace was a temporary residence of the heavenly lord of Tao and virtue. It wasn't under the jurisdiction of the Celestial Court, but it was responsible for the pill refinement business of the Celestial Court. Most of the immortals of the Celestial Court would go to the Do Shui Palace if they wanted pills. The person in charge of pill refinement was the heavenly lord of Tao and Virtue's first disciple, the enlightened Ishi. His pill refinement skills were among the best in the celestial court. Not only were his pills of high quality, but they were also highly efficient. And Lin flew through the air on his brick with a navigation map in his hand. Xiao Chou was sitting obediently on his shoulder. Soon, he saw the majestic palace. Holy **T, such a huge palace? He was a little astonished. The palace was at least a few hundred meters tall. At first glance, it looked like a towering mountain in front of him. In front of the Do Shui Palace, there were white lotuses blooming all over the ground. A cool breeze blew gently, bringing with it a faint medicinal fragrance that made people feel refreshed. And Lin landed at the entrance of the Do Shui Palace. There were 2 armored heavenly soldiers standing guard there. "Stop! Please show me your identity," one of the heavenly soldiers said. And Lin stopped in his tracks. He was slightly taken aback. "Show me my identity? What identity did he have? Was he a student?" After thinking for a moment, he took out his Xiaoxian United University student identification card. It was a wooden badge. The heavenly soldiers stepped aside upon seeing the wooden badge. And Lin put away the wooden badge. He didn't think that he would be able to use his student identification card here. After entering the Do Shui Palace, he was greeted by the sight of many Taoist priests in Taoist robes busily filling medicinal ingredients. As far as the eye could see, the entire floor was filled with medicine cabinets. They were so densely packed that it was hard to count how many heavenly treasures were stored here. "Hello, fellow Taoist. May I ask if you're here to find someone to refine medicine into?" At this moment, a young Taoist with delicate features came to Lin's side and asked. And Lin immediately nodded. "Yes, I want to find someone to help me refine an immortal pill." "An immortal pill?" The little Taoist priest was astonished. "Then we'll have to ask Senior Shi to refine it for us. Please come with me." And Lin followed the little Taoist to a wooden plank. The wooden board suddenly began to move upwards, arriving at the 2nd floor. At first glance, it was still densely packed with medicine cabinets. The wooden plank continued to move upwards. The 3rd floor, the 4th floor, they were all filled with medicine cabinets. And Lin felt that the Do Shui Palace was a huge treasure vault. There were countless natural treasures on every floor, and the total amount of these medicinal herbs was terrifying. The wooden board stopped moving on the 19th floor. And Lin followed the young Taoist to a refining room facing east. "Senior Shi, there's a customer who wishes to refine an immortal pill for you." The little Taoist priest bowed respectfully. Tell him to wait for a while. I'll finish refining this pill first." A lazy voice sounded. And Lin looked toward the refining room and saw a fatty with bushy eyebrows and big eyes gnawing on an apple in one hand while waving his other hand in the air. Purple flames rose in front of him, and countless medicinal herbs were mixed and refined in the air. "My God, pill refinement can be done with one hand?" And Lin was a little shocked. He had learned about pill refinement in school, and he knew that the most important aspect of pill refinement was that one's body and mind had to be as one without any distractions. However, this person was eating an apple while refining a pill. Furthermore, he wasn't even using a pill refinement furnace. Wasn't this a little too casual? "Huh, you're the person who wants to refine the pill?" Ishi looked at Lin as he nibbled on the apple, one hand still waving in the air. And Lin was shocked. "Big brother, don't you need to look at me when you refine the pill?" F***CK. So be if he could multitask, but now he didn't even bother to look at what the medicinal herbs in the air had become. Would pills refined this way really not kill people? "Oh, don't worry, I'm really good at it." As if he knew what Lin was worried about, Ishi offered words of consolation. "Condense the pill." Ishi made a grabbing motion in the air, and the medicinal herbs that were being roasted by the purple flames in the air suddenly began to spin. A dazzling light burst forth, and the crisp cry of a bird reverberated throughout the entire space. Whoosh! A translucent, snow-white pill flew into Ishi's hand. Ishi had a satisfied expression on his face. "Peach Blossom, deliver this 8th grade azure bird frostflower immortal pill to true Lord Erlang of the Celestial Court. A beautiful Taoist nun walked into the room and placed the pill into a bottle before departing cheerfully. And Lin's heart jolted slightly. He didn't think that Ishi could refine 8th grade immortal pills so casually. This was a sign of his strength. With this in mind, Lin's heart also relaxed slightly. Seeing that Ishi had finished refining the pill in his hand, Lin asked respectfully, "Senior Ishi, this junior is Lin. I would like to ask you to refine a 9th grade wood-type immortal pill for me. May I know the price?" Ishi yawned upon hearing this. There are many types of 9th grade wood-type immortal pills, and they all have different prices. Which one do you want? Tell me its name. I don't know which one I want either, so I'll go with the cheapest one. And Lin replied, after a moment of hesitation. Huh? You want the cheapest one? Ishi blinked his large eyes. Are you feeding your immortal pills to pigs? You're only going to pick the cheapest one without even looking at its characteristics? What kind of attitude is that? And Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. I'm the pig you're referring to. Stage 1 Evergreen Technique. Condition. Consume 5 wood-type immortal pills in a row. As long as it was an immortal pill, he naturally wanted the cheapest one. And Lin made up his mind and said, Senior Ishi, please tell me the price of the cheapest wood-type immortal pill first. Ishi replied with a resigned expression, Vitality Enhancement Pill, 80,000 spirit stones each. Consuming it can strengthen one's constitution, replenish one's energy essence, and slightly expand the capacity of the vital energy sea in one's jade palace. Do you want it? Only 80,000 spirit stones each? This was much cheaper than he had imagined. And Lin nodded with a smile. All right, I want it. Give me 5. Ishi glared at him. Why do you want so many of these pills? If you consume them repeatedly, the effects will be greatly reduced. And Lin replied bluntly, I like them. Ishi felt a lump in his throat, and he didn't want to say anything else. Fine, you're a fool with a lot of money. I can't win against you in an argument. Ishi didn't continue to dwell on this topic. Instead, he instructed a young Taoist priest to inform the medicine collectors to prepare the ingredients. At this moment, the clown suddenly jumped onto the golden pill refinement cauldron. Ishi had already noticed this adorably ugly little monkey, and he couldn't help but ask in confusion, What do you want to do? The clown scratched his head and replied, I heard that the great sage, heaven's equal, Sun Wukong, was refined by the 16 divine flame for 49 days in this pill refinement cauldron, and he achieved the eyes of fire and golden. She grimaced as a certain unpleasant memory was evoked by the clown's words. You want to try? The clown shook his head. No, I just want to take a picture with you. Ishi was dumbfounded. What? However, when the clown turned to look at Lin with his light bulb-like eyes, and Lin cooperatively took out his solar cell phone. Come, clown, stand on top of the cauldron and form a pair of scissors with your hands. Yes, just like that. Gotcha. And Lin chuckled happily. I'm done. Let's take a few more pictures in your original form. The clown's body began to transform, turning into the ugly monkey king. Come, smile. An ugly smile appeared on the clown's face. Ishi, what's going on here? Are these two lunatics here to ask for pill refinement, or are they here to sightsee? Then, the clown raised his scissors above his head like a rabbit's ears, trying to act cute. Ishi almost blacked out at this sight, and an urge to beat someone up welled up in his heart. Just like that, the clown took a picture of the pill refinement cauldron that his idol had once achieved the eyes of fire and golden. Chapter 135. If it weren't for the fact that he still had to refine 5 immortal pills for Lin, Ishi would have smacked these two idiots flying with a broom. The young Taoist priest returned with the herbs. His storage ring flashed, and all sorts of rare and precious herbs piled up on the ground like a small mountain, exuding extremely powerful spiritual energy fluctuations. Ishi only wanted to send these 2 Buddhas away as soon as possible. So he waved his sleeve, and all of the herbs began to float in the air. Immediately afterward, he opened his mouth, and a purple flame rose up in the air, enveloping all of the herbs within it. From the looks of it, he was planning to refine 5 immortal pills at once. And Lin's eyes widened as he stared at this scene. Once a grandmaster made his move, he would immediately know if he was good or not. Being able to see Ishi refine 5 immortal pills at once was definitely an extremely rare opportunity. He wasn't going to miss out on such a great opportunity to learn. Ishi began to refine pills. He waved his arms and legs as if he were dancing, and the herbs in the air also began to dance. The purple flame seemed to have a life of its own as wisps of flames seeped into the herbs and extracted their essence bit by bit. And Lin nodded as he watched from the side, and he even gave marks in his mind. Full marks for flame manipulation. 9 marks for refinement of herbs. Negative marks for body dance. After a while, condense the pills. Ishi yelled. Instantly, the purple flames roared and glowed brightly. 5 green immortal pills appeared in the air, and an extremely rich aura of life began to permeate the entire space, making everyone feel as if every breath they took was filled with boundless vitality. Here you go. Ishi waved his sleeve, and the immortal pills flew toward Enlin. Enlin excitedly received the 5 immortal pills as if he were holding some kind of treasure. He also took out 400,000 spirit stones from his storage ring and placed them on the ground. Fortunately, this pill refinement room was very spacious. Otherwise, the mountain of spirit stones would have completely filled the room to the brim. Ishi put away the spirit stones in his storage ring and saw that Enlin had already placed the immortal pills into his mouth. He exclaimed in shock, "You want to eat them now?" Enlin blinked in confusion. "Can't I?" Inshi's round face twitched as he cleared his throat. "It's not that I can't, but before we eat, don't you need to find a good place to meditate or something?" It was like eating an extremely delicious dish. Tasting it in a beautiful environment and tasting it in a messy environment had different feelings. And Lin shook his head. "No, I think this place is pretty good." As he spoke, he swallowed the immortal pill. Pure life energy began to fill his entire body, making him feel extremely comfortable. The immortal elixir melted inside his body, and the energy contained inside impacted his whole body, making his essence energy incomparably exuberant. His flesh and bones began to be further strengthened. Inside his jade mansion, the sea of vitality tumbled endlessly as the world's origin energy crazily poured into his jade mansion, further expanding the size of the sea of vitality. "Ah, this feels great." And Lin let out a loud cry of relief, his face beaming with vigor. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that even the lowest grade of immortal pills would have such a shocking effect. After the immortal pill's effects were completely digested, he took out the second immortal pill and popped it into his mouth. Ishi was startled. "You're still eating it?" And Lin looked at Ishi with a confused expression. "Can I?" Ishi's chest tightened. "This isn't a question of whether I can or not. Didn't I tell you before that if you repeatedly eat the same type of immortal pill, its effects will continuously decrease?" And Lin nodded with an earnest expression. "So it's still effective?" As he spoke, he swallowed the immortal pill in one gulp. "Oh, this feels great." Powerful life energy flowed through Lin's body, causing him to moan involuntarily. Ishi, after digesting the second immortal pill, Lin began to eat the third. "You." Ishi's eyes widened. Never would he have thought that Lin would want to eat more. And Lin looked at Ishi to find that he couldn't speak. So he ignored him and swallowed the immortal pill. "Oh, this feels great." And Lin discovered that no matter how many times he ate this immortal pill, the feeling of invigorating his entire body and energy would never change. Even though the improvement to his physical body and sea of vital energy was somewhat reduced, it was still really great. Ishi was completely speechless at the sight of Lin's satisfied expression. He had seen people eat immortal pills before, but he had never seen someone eat immortal pills like they were candy. Even if you had money, this wasn't how you spent it. And Lin swallowed the fourth immortal pill and shook his head. Ishi's face convulsed. "Holy F***, is this guy addicted?" After digesting the fourth immortal pill, Lin swallowed the fifth immortal pill. He had already reached a mystical realm. It was as if he possessed boundless power and boundless life energy. His entire body felt extremely carefree, and every breath he took made him feel like an immortal. Ishi was a little swayed at the sight of Enlin's expression. Could it be that swallowing immortal pills in succession really made him feel like he was going to fly into the sky? He wondered if he should save up some money next time so he could swallow immortal pills in succession. Ding dong. Mission accomplished. The system's voice sounded. Instantly, the contents of the evergreen technique began to flow into Enlin's mind as if he had been bestowed with wisdom. A dazzling green light began to radiate from his body, and the green halo above his head became even more dazzling. It seemed to be imbued with divinity, and it emanated boundless might. Ishi and Xiao Cho stared blankly at the halo above Enlin's head. They didn't know what to say. Should they yell, "Greetings, Green Hat God"? The green halo gradually disappeared. He had successfully mastered the first stage of the evergreen technique, and his life force had reached an extremely powerful level. His vital energy recovery ability, his body's self-healing ability, and his cockroach-like attributes had all been greatly enhanced. It could be said that as long as Enlin's heart and head weren't fatally wounded, he would have a chance to survive, no matter what kind of injuries he sustained. Ishi also sensed the change in Enlin's aura. He was completely dumbstruck, and even his worldview had been flipped upside down. You've changed. He pointed at Enlin as if he had discovered something inexplicable. Only Xiao Cho remained calm and collected. Enlin was able to progress to the spirit nurturing stage after ingesting a beast core, so it was perfectly normal for his body to undergo a transformation after ingesting an immortal pill. Enlin didn't evade the question. Instead, he replied indifferently, "That's right, I've changed. You've changed because you've ingested immortal pills in succession." Ishi's eyes widened with excitement. Enlin replied honestly, "That's right. This change will occur after ingesting 5 immortal pills in succession." That's right. That's exactly what the system said. However, he didn't expect that his words would create such a terrifying alchemy maniac. Ishi felt as if a door to a whole new world had been opened up to him. So that's how it is. This is a realm that very few people have set foot in. I understand now. Quantitative change leads to qualitative change. As long as there's enough of something, it will evolve in quality. Ishi laughed heartily. His eyes were filled with gratitude as he looked at Enlin. Enlin had given him far too much inspiration. This kindness was like giving him a new lease on life. Chapter 136. Enlin successfully learned the evergreen technique. His system's missions were refreshed once again, and a new mission had appeared. In terms of cultivation methods, the metal-type cultivation method was updated. Stage 1 Divine Weapon Origin Energy condition. Successfully nurture a weapon spirit. Nurturing a weapon spirit was an extremely mysterious mission. It could be said to be difficult, but it could also be said to be easy. Enlin had a pseudo-immortal weapon, the evil-slaying sword. There was no problem with the material, but nurturing a weapon spirit was a matter of fate. For example, sometimes a weapon and its master could nurture a spirit after spending so much time together. Or, when fighting against a powerful enemy, it could suddenly connect with the weapon and nurture a spirit of its own. Or, it could be stained with blood and nurture a bloodthirsty spirit. There were countless ways to nurture a weapon spirit, but none of them were absolutely reliable. It all depended on fate and couldn't be rushed. Therefore, he turned his attention to another interface of the system. Techniques. That's right, his techniques were finally updated, and 2 at once. Intermediate rank God of War technique. Origin energy of the Netherworld condition. Defeat a sinister devil and absorb its energy. Enlin's heart tightened when he saw the words sinister devil. The sinister devils mentioned here weren't humans or any other species. They were a special species that often appeared in the outer regions of the Tai-Chu continent. They were twisted demonic creatures that contained boundless negative emotions. Ordinary people would not be able to defeat it. Once they got close to it, their minds would be taken away, and they would be reduced to a walking corpse. With Enlin's current strength, going to the outer regions of the Tai-Chu continent was suicide. However, there was a place called the Abyss of Evil in the inner regions of the Tai-Chu continent. There seemed to be a small number of sinister devils there as well, and they were relatively weak. This might be a good choice for Enlin. He turned his attention to the second technique. Intermediate rank god of war sword technique. 6 strikes of the war god. Condition: sign a contract with 2 spirit beasts. This mission, and Lin glanced at the clown and then thought of Dubai. He instantly felt that this was the mission with the highest chance of success. The techniques of an intermediate rank god of war were definitely awesome. One should know that the mountain quaking fist that Lin normally used was only a beginner war god level immortal technique, but it was already considered one of the best immortal techniques out there. An intermediate level immortal technique was definitely one level higher than that. As he thought of this, he began to look forward to it. These were all the new missions that the system had given him. After reading through them, Lin turned his attention back to Ishi. There was one more thing that he needed to consult with a professional. Senior Ishi, there's something else I'd like to ask you, Lin said as he looked at the fatso standing before him. What is it? Go ahead. Ishi was in a good mood at the moment, so he spoke with a smile on his face. Lin was a little nervous. How many spirit stones does that second-grade immortal pill, the ultimate creation pill, cost? Ishi was shocked to hear this. Ultimate creation pill? What do you want that for? I owe someone one of these immortal pills, so I wanted to ask about the price, Lin said with some embarrassment. Is 1 million spirit stones enough? He continued. He did some calculations and found that there weren't many spirit stones left in his storage ring. There were only 100 vital stones, which was equivalent to 1 million spirit stones. Ishi chuckled as if he was amused by Lin's words, and his large belly jiggled. You said 1 million? Ha! Even if I add another 0, it might not be enough. Lin's mouth gaped open upon hearing this, and he was rooted to the spot in shock. Not even 10 million spirit stones? What an exaggeration. This was a huge blow to filthy Richin. Ishi explained upon seeing Lin's expression. 1 million spirit stones can only buy the cheapest third-grade immortal pill at most. However, the ultimate creation pill is the most difficult second-grade immortal pill to refine. The pill refiner must have reached the pinnacle of pill refinement. Just this alone is something that very few people in the Kingdom of the 9 States can achieve. There are also all sorts of unimaginable treasures that can't even be found in the Do Shui Palace. You also have to go to a special environment and use it to refine the pill. Ishi looked at Lin with great interest as he said this. You must have died a horrible death back then. Otherwise, you wouldn't have needed an immortal pill like this. However, what I'm more curious about is, who on earth gave you an immortal pill like this? One had to realize that Lin was only a cultivator of the spirit nurturing stage, and the ultimate creation pill was a supreme grade immortal pill that couldn't even be bought with 10 million spirit stones. Ishi was extremely curious as to which mighty figure would be so extravagant. It was Celestial Maiden Chang'e, and Lin didn't try to hide this. This was no longer a secret at their school. It was Ishi's turn to be shocked. His eyes widened even more than a clown's. Chang actually helped you. What's wrong with this world? Then a thought occurred to him, and he exclaimed in surprise. Who is Chang'e's husband? And Lin was dumbstruck. Ishi asked in a panicked voice. Are you her son? And Lin, it had to be said that Ishi's mind was quite sharp, and Lin naturally tried his best to clarify this point. However, even Lin couldn't explain why Chang'e was so nice to him. Could it really be that she was willing to pay such a high price because of Su Qinyan's plea? Sigh, no matter what, he had to repay this debt. And Lin was wondering if he should find some time to thank Chang'e in person and give her a realm-piercing nail or something. He didn't use the free immortal pill that Emperor Ziwei and Celestial Maiden Tian Yu had given him. After all, he hadn't decided what pill he wanted to refine yet. It wouldn't be too late to use it if he needed it in the future. Thinking that there was nothing else for him to do, and Lin and Xiao Chou left Do Shui Palace. Xiao Chou suddenly jumped down from a lotus pond and reverted to his original form. And Lin, what is it? Xiao Chou, I'm about to break through. And Lin was elated and started a stand guard for Xiao Chou. Xiao Chou took out the mysterious blood immortal fruit that Lin had given him and ate it. After eating it, he sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to meditate. Boom! The mist of heaven and earth surged violently, forming a vital energy vortex that flowed into Xiao Chao's body. Gales howled around him, and thunder boomed from time to time. It had to be said that breaking through from the spirit-nurturing intermediate stage to the spirit-nurturing final stage caused quite a stir. As the vital energy surged more and more violently, a large amount of black flames suddenly appeared on Xiao Chao's body. These flames enshrouded his body, and it was as if they were imbued with an aura that could engulf all things. Anyone who looked at them would feel as if their minds were being sucked in. The ground around him started to turn black, and the grass around him also started to wither. And Lin was shocked. He clearly didn't understand why these flames would suddenly appear on Xiao Chao's body. Suddenly, Xiao Chao's eyes opened, and two beams of golden light shot out from his eyes, piercing through the black flames like sunlight piercing through a thick layer of dark clouds. A mysterious ripple proliferated outward, and the white lotuses on the lotus pond began to darken. And Lin looked around to find that all of the lotuses in the pond had turned black, creating a sinister and imposing sight. The black flames receded, and the light in Xiao Chao's eyes also began to dim. He stood up and stretched his body, upon which his aura became vast and powerful. Breakthrough successful. Chapter 137. During the 1-month holiday, and Lin's friends all had their own things to do. Su Qinyun had already returned to the Greenwood Imperial Palace to be her little princess. Xinyuan Cheng had also returned to the 10,000 Spirits Immortal Sect to be his crown prince. Even Su Xiaolan had to return to the Vermilion Bird Sect to report on some matters. As for Lin's old teammates, they either returned home or returned to their sections. Not many of them chose to stay at the university. Fortunately, Xiao Chou and Xiao Hong were with him. Otherwise, he would really be lonely and cold. The days at the university were quite boring. And Lin refined his core every day. After eating 5 immortal pills in one go, his cultivation base had also improved significantly. However, he didn't know when he would be able to break through to the spirit-nurturing intermediate stage. Before he knew it, a few days had passed. The man, monkey, and flower had even gotten sick of playing Fight the Landlord. And Lin felt like he should enrich his holiday life. How to enrich it? For some reason, he thought of that white figure. Let's go to the mythological beast sect. Without further ado, and Lin arrived at the university's teleportation spell formation and was directly teleported to the Stone Dragon State's prefecture. The mythological beast sect was actually located in the Stone Dragon State's White Lake prefecture. And Lin had wanted to visit Dubai for a long time, but he had never had the chance due to the year-end exams. Now that he had the time, he wanted to visit Dubai and visit the legendary mythological beast sect. It would be even better if he could form a beast pet contract with Dubai. 1 heaven for sex, 9 emperors. The 4 sects were the 10,000 Spirits Immortal Sect, the Vermilion Bird Sect, the Heavenly Sword Sect, and the Mythological Beast Sect. These 4 sects transcended the other sects of the Kingdom of the 9 States and were extremely powerful. Their influence had even spread throughout the entire Tai Chu continent. The mythological beast sect that Lin was a colossus in the cultivation world. Furthermore, it was a sect with the beast tribe as its core power. Human cultivators had a much lower status than the beast tribe there. They could only serve as internal affairs managers or poop scoopers. The mythological beast sect was situated atop an immortal mountain. The scenery here was picturesque and beautiful, making it a great place for vacation. And Lin followed the coordinates on the map and arrived at the entrance of the mythological beast sect. On both sides of the gate were huge stone tortoises. These stone tortoises were extremely lifelike, and their eyes were extremely lifelike. They carried a disdainful gaze. And Lin looked into its eyes and felt a sense of inferiority from the bottom of his heart. There were 2 human guards at the gate. When they saw Lin approaching on his brick, they remained expressionless. "What are you doing here?" one of the guards asked. And Lin wanted to say that he was looking for Dubai, but he suddenly thought that it might still be receiving the inheritance, so it wasn't convenient to receive him. So he changed his mind and said, "I'm looking for Zhao Huayin." The guard nodded, picked up the sound transmission talisman, walked to the other side, and said a few words. Soon, A young man ran over in a hurry. "Hi, and Lin, long time no see." Zhao Huayin greeted him with a smile. And Lin saw that Zhao Huayin seemed to be in good spirits and waved excitedly. "Huh, who's that monkey on your shoulder?" Zhao Huayin looked at the adorably ugly monkey with a curious expression. "His name is Xiao Chou. He's my brother." And Lin pointed at the monkey and said, "Oh, nice to meet you, Xiao Chou." Zhao Huayin shook hands with Xiao Chou enthusiastically. He didn't think that it was strange for Lin and an ugly monkey to call each other brother. He behaved very naturally, and this gave Xiao Chou a very good first impression of this sect. Afterward, Zhao Huayin led Lin and Xiao Chou into the mythological beast sect and acted as their tour guide. The mythological beast sect is the #1 sect established by the beast tribe in the Kingdom of the Nine States. The beasts here are different from those seductive cheese from the Myriad Mountain realm. We are organized and disciplined, and we abide by the law of harmony between beasts and nature. Over the past few years, we have been continuously developing and growing stronger. In recent years, many talented individuals have emerged in our tribe, such as the 4 little dragons of the beast tribe and the 3 immortal beast overlords. I'm sure you've heard of them, right? Zhao Huayin was full of pride as he introduced the mythological beast sect. It looked like he had a strong sense of belonging here. Although Lin didn't know what the 4 little dragons of the beast tribe were, he still cooperated and put on an expression of admiration so that the tour guide wouldn't feel awkward. "The activity and fitness plaza is up ahead." Zhao Huayin pointed ahead, and Lin looked around and saw that this was an extremely wide and flat area. There were many cultivators walking their pets on it. There were all kinds of animals. The smaller ones were mice, puppies, and kittens. The bigger ones were crocodiles, elephants, lions, and tigers. There were also some animals that he didn't understand at all. For example, a small wolf with wings, a furry ball, and a 2-legged ice cube. Wherever these animals went, the cultivators behind them would follow. It gave people the feeling that the animals were trying to sneak away from the group of cultivators. And Lin looked at Zhao Huayin sympathetically, only to find that his face was brimming with happiness. "Let's go. I'll take you to the inner court," Zhao Huayin said. "And Lin, this place is divided into the inner court and the outer court." Zhao Huayin, "Of course. The outer court is where the beasts that haven't reached the core formation realm live. There are many human cultivators in charge of logistics. The inner court is where the powerful beasts that have reached the core formation realm mainly cultivate. The Dabai you're looking for is also there." And Lin was immediately filled with anticipation. He was also a little nervous, as if he was visiting his in-laws. Along the way, he saw many adorable little animals and couldn't help but want to pet them. However, almost all of these little animals looked at Lin with disdain in their eyes. And Lin couldn't help but feel a little hurt. "Don't mind it. These little animals are all afraid of strangers. That's how they are." Zhao Huayin consoled the depressed Lin. "Wait, why is Dabai so afraid of strangers? Why is he asking to be my beast pet?" And Lin was confused. Zhao Huayin felt like a sword had been stabbed in the heart when he heard this. Now it was his turn to be depressed. After passing by a clear stream, another gate appeared in front of them. This time, there were no human cultivators guarding the gate. Instead, there were 2 muscular tigers. They exuded an extremely powerful aura, indicating that they had already reached the spirit-nurturing stage. And Lin clicked his tongue in wonder. As expected of the mythological beast sect, they were the kings of beasts in the Myriad Mountain realm. Yet here, they were guarding tigers. Another question arose in his mind. Didn't they say that 2 tigers couldn't share a mountain? How come 2 tigers could share a gate here? This wasn't the animal world at all. And Lin followed behind Zhao Huayin, his mind filled with all sorts of thoughts. Just as he was following behind Zhao Huayin, a huge white dog walked toward them. And Lin thought it was Dabai and was overjoyed. However, upon closer inspection, he discovered that it was completely different from Dabai. The huge dog in front of them had fur that was as beautiful as Dabai's, but it was a little more slender, and its face was also more gentle and beautiful. It was completely different from Dabai's adorable and mighty appearance. The huge white dog stopped in its tracks when it saw Lin and the others. A feminine voice sounded from its mouth. Zhao Huayin, who's that next to you? Zhao Huayin lost his composure when he saw this huge dog, and he became nervous. In the end, he seemed to be unable to resist the scorching gaze of the huge dog, and he stammered, "He's that Lin." "What? You're Lin." The huge white dog's fur stood on end upon hearing this, and it glared at Lin. And Lin shuddered. Killing intent. Chapter 138. And Lin felt like the huge dog's killing intent was directed at him. He was a little dumbstruck as he clearly didn't understand why this huge dog was so hostile toward him. This was his first time here, and he didn't manage to steal the dog's bones. Thankfully, the huge dog's killing intent quickly receded, but its eyes were still filled with hostility. "What are you doing here?" This was clearly directed at Lin, and Lin didn't hide anything. "I'm here to see Dabai." The huge dog grinned. It looked quite beautiful, and its tail was slightly raised. F***CK off. Lin, did this dog eat gunpowder? Why was it so rude? Zhao Huayin inched closer to Lin with a slightly embarrassed expression. "This dog's name is Qinghua, and she's Dabai's childhood sweetheart." Lin faltered upon hearing this. "So what?" Zhao Huayin spoke again. "Most importantly, she likes Dabai." Lin, he finally understood why Qinghua was hostile toward him. Lin looked at Qinghua with a sincere expression. "Qinghua, don't worry, I won't steal your man. After all, our races and genders are different, so it's impossible for me and Dabai to be together." Zhao Huayin face-bombed. What was going on in Lin's brain? Why did she think of stealing a man? Qinghua clearly didn't want her beloved Dabai to become a human's beast pet, which was why she was hostile toward him. Boom! Terrifying energy fluctuations proliferated from Qinghua's body. She roared with rage. Why would Dabai want to become a beast pet of such a stupid human? "No, I have to put an end to this today." Woof woof. A layer of golden light suddenly enveloped Qinghua's body, and she pounced toward Lin at an extremely fast speed. "Stop, Woof!" A familiar voice sounded. Lin raised his head and saw Dabai flying over on a seven-colored auspicious cloud like a peerless hero. The strong wind pressure hit Qinghua like a cannonball. Qinghua's body was hit by the wind pressure and fell to the ground, creating a huge crater. Amidst the smoke and dust, Dabai landed and stood in front of Lin. He said angrily, "Why did you hit my master?" Woof. When Lin heard Dabai take the initiative to call him master, he was very touched. He really wanted to give Dabai's furry body a hug that he hadn't had in a long time, but he was afraid that Qinghua would get jealous, so he could only hold back. Qinghua crawled out of the huge pit. He looked a little disheveled, but he wasn't injured. She looked at Dabai. Woof Woof's big eyes were filled with tears, and her voice trembled. "You hit me." Dabai frowned. "You were the one who attacked first. I was just trying to stop you." Qinghua looked aggrieved. Tears fell from the corners of her eyes and wet the fluffy, white dog fur. "You actually hit me because of him." Seeing Qinghua's appearance, Dabai pouted, but his aura weakened. "Don't be unreasonable. This is my choice." Woof, woof, woof. Qinghua's ears and tail drooped. She looked delicate and pitiful. "You've never hit me since I was young." And Lin's body trembled. What was going on with this Qiong Yao-style drama? Was it a dog's sadomasochism? Should Dabai not have made a move? Qinghua looked so pitiful. Why did he feel a little sad when he saw it? "Little Qing." Dabai's tone finally softened. "Woof, woof. I'm going to ignore you, Woof." Qinghua turned around and ran away without looking back. Dabai took a step forward with his paw, but in the end, he didn't move. He just silently watched the leaving figure without saying a word. If this scene happened in the rain, it would probably make many people cry. "Tui." A voice suddenly sounded. A sly smile appeared on Dabai's face as he spat on the ground. That annoying little vixen finally got away. And Lin, the clown who was wiping his tears. What was going on? "Dabai, I'm touched by you." "Let's go, Lin. I'll show you where I live," Dabai said cheerfully. And Lin calmed himself down and pointed at Dabai's back. Dabai raised his eyebrows. "Okay." And Lin laughed and excitedly jumped onto Dabai's back. Dog kinesis flight again. That long-lost feeling and familiar body temperature made him very touched. Dabai rushed into the sky and flew toward his residence. On the ground, Zhao Huayin stared blankly at the sky. He looked at Dabai and Lin disappearing into the distance. He didn't cry during the dog abuse scene, but now tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. Dabai flew in the sky, but his eyes were looking in another direction. This scene was coincidentally captured by Lin. Dabai lived in a luxurious courtyard. There was a black-furred lion of the spirit-nurturing stage as its butler and a dozen or so human cultivators as servants. From this, it could be seen that its status in the mythological beast sect was definitely not low. In its bedroom, there was a very thick bone that faintly glowed with a five-colored light. "This is my favorite bone, Woof." Dabai picked up the bone with his mouth and licked it with elation. Lin was shocked. "This is the bone of a rainbow cow." Dabai's eyes lit up. "That's right. I didn't expect you to know this kind of bone." Lin smiled and told Dabai about their team eating the rainbow cow, then inexplicably summoning a divine dragon and entering the ruins. Dabai listened to Lin's experiences with great interest. As expected, there are always many fun things to do by following you. "I'm definitely following you." Lin also liked dog kinesis flight. Hearing Dabai's words, he was very happy. However, he suddenly thought of another matter. "Dabai, if you're with me, then what about Xinghua? Isn't she your childhood sweetheart?" Dabai shook his head. "Don't worry about her. I only treat her as a younger sister. After I leave, she will take good care of herself." For the sake of Dabai's future, Lin felt that he couldn't make such a hasty decision. He said solemnly, "If you do this, what will happen to your offspring? Will your parents allow it? Also, after following me, you might not meet such a beautiful dog. You have to be mentally prepared. When you feel lonely, don't come to me." Dabai seemed to realize the seriousness of the problem. Seeing this, Lin went straight to the point. "Do you want to get on Xinghua?" "Get on Xinghua?" Dabai blushed and spat. "I don't want to get on Xinghua. I only treat her as a younger sister." Hearing Dabai's answer, Lin roughly knew that Dabai hadn't reached the age to reproduce. He breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. However, he still advised earnestly, "Even so, you can't treat her as a younger sister." Dabai was stunned. "Do you want me to marry her?" "I don't want to." "Woof." Lin shook his head and smiled. "How could I want you to marry her? What I mean is, don't treat her as a younger sister. Treat her as a spare tire." "What do you mean by a spare tire?" Dabai's face was a little confused, and Lin smiled mysteriously. "A spare tire means a substitute wife. You don't have to explicitly express your relationship with her. However, you have to treat her better and be gentler. Think about it. After you leave the mythological beast sect, you and Xinghua will be in different worlds. This is the best time to test your relationship. If you get along as a brother and sister, she definitely won't be able to forget you as her older brother. She will think that you are still in love. She will have hope for you. This will delay her love life. However, if you are ambiguous with her, this will be a male-female relationship. Then she only has two choices. One is to face this relationship and wait for you to return. The other is to get along with another dog. Without the shackles of sibling between you two, everything will become clearer. If Xinghua leaves with another dog, then you will have made her recognize her feelings. If Xinghua can always wait for you and never leave you, then you must marry her. Where else can you find such a good dog?" After listening to Lin's analysis, Dabai's eyes lit up. "Master, now that I think about it, what you said makes a lot of sense." Lin smiled and caressed Dabai's head. "Silly Dabai, it's just that this way you're the spare tire." Chapter 139. Dabai wagged his tail excitedly. He was very satisfied with this method that didn't delay Xinghua. He immediately asked, "Then what should I do next?" And Lin stroked his chin and said like a relationship analyst, "First of all, you have to state your position." Dabai stuck out his tongue and pricked up his ears slightly, looking like he was all ears. And Lin said, "Didn't you always tell her that you only treat her as a sister?" Dabai nodded. And Lin said, "You go and tell her that you don't treat her as a sister anymore. You want to be friends with her. I'm sure she'll understand what you mean. Dabai nodded and then flew away. Master, wait for me here. And Lin didn't expect Dabai to be so impatient. He flew back to Qinghua after leaving a sentence. He and the clown could only doze off and take out Little Red to photosynthesize. Dabai's inheritance in the mythological beast sect had actually ended. His clan learned the inheritance of the heavenly wolf, which was related to the blade claw and the Tao of wind. Now, as long as he dealt with the relationship with his childhood sweetheart and relatives, he could sign a contract with Lin. After about an hour, Dabai flew back again. Is it done? Lin asked curiously. Dabai nodded with a complicated expression. I really didn't expect that after I told her that we don't want to be siblings and that we want to be friends, she actually agreed to let me go with you. It's really hard to guess what a bitch is thinking. She also gave me this mystic dragon bone that often accompanies her. She said that when I miss her, I can take it out and lick it, saying that. Dabai held a white bone in his mouth as if telling Lin, "This is the bone." And Lin was a little surprised. He wasn't surprised that the bitch agreed to let Dabai leave, but that the bitch actually gave him a bone as a token of love. Indirect kiss? And Lin nodded secretly. It had to be said that dogs nowadays were also very good at playing tricks. Dabai said happily, "Now I just need to get past my parents, and everything will be settled." And Lin was a little nervous. "Do I need to go there?" Dabai tilted his head and thought for a moment, then said, "It's best if you follow me. My parents also said that they want to see you." Hearing this, Lin became even more nervous. What would it feel like to be missed by Dabai's parents? Would they suddenly pounce on him? "Clown, transform back to your original appearance and help me hold the line," and Lin said helplessly. With a bang, the clown turned into the mighty and majestic golden-eyed Monkey King, who was clad in black crystal armor and wielding a silver iron staff. When Dabai saw the clown's appearance, his eyes widened. So ugly. Bah, what a mighty monkey. And Lin was amused by Dabai's reaction. "His name is Clown. He's a brother who has gone through fire and water with me." Dabai was filled with deep veneration and nodded excitedly. He greeted Clown. "Hello, Clown. My name is Dabai. I'm also a brother who has gone through fire and water with Lin." Back then, during the free-for-all battle, the fame of the heroic couple of man and dog struck fear into the hearts of the students of the Celestial Court. Everyone knew about them. Along the way, Dabai began to brag about his glorious deeds. Clown was full of curiosity, and Lin was also very happy to hear him brag like this. It just so happened that it could relieve his tension. Along the way, Dabai told Lin some things about his parents. For example, his mother was a white fur dog of the soul formation stage, while his father was an immortal beast of the return to void stage. He was one of the famous 3 immortal beasts of the mythological beast sect. The more Lin listened, the more uneasy he became. T. Why is Dabai so powerful? Am I really going to let Dabai be my beast pet? His parents are an immortal beast and a soul beast. Such lofty existences, would they really agree to let their son become the beast pet of a cultivator of the spirit nurturing stage? With this in mind, even Lin himself didn't believe that they would agree. His main concern now was, what if Dabai's parents swallowed him whole if he didn't take good care of them? Clown's deterrent effect was also no longer effective. Apart from his looks that could scare Dabai's parents, if they really fought, he probably wouldn't even be able to withstand a slap from his mother. Sigh, how depressing. And Lin felt like he was walking into hell. When they arrived at the address of Dabai's parents, a butler came out to greet them. This butler was a pig that walked upright. The muscles all over his body bulged and seemed to contain extremely powerful energy. There was a stern expression on his face, and it was clear that he wasn't someone to be trifled with. And Lin was astonished and called him a bodybuilding pig in his mind. The bodybuilding pig was also surprised to see Clown, but he didn't say much. After learning that Dabai wanted to see his parents, he silently led the way. In an ancient courtyard, 2 huge white fur dogs were lying lazily on soft, immortal grass cushions. "Damn, Mom, I'm here to see you, Woof." Dabai walked in first and spoke. And Lin also walked in, feeling extremely nervous. Then he saw a huge white dog that was adorable and mighty, and a white dog that was slightly more slender and beautiful. F***. Why does it feel like they're copies of Dubai and Xinhua? He originally thought that the dog with the title of Overlord's three immortal beasts would be a domineering giant dog that looked down on the world. However, when he looked at Dubai and then at his father, and Lin was a little confused. If Dubai's father ran over and called a master, and Lin would definitely foolishly think that he was Dubai. This time, he finally understood the racial barrier that Clown was talking about. It was really difficult to tell the difference between different races by looking at their faces. It was still easier to distinguish someone as ugly as Clown. Junior and Lin greet Senior by Xian and Senior Chun, and Lin bowed respectfully. Bai Xian and Chun were the names of Dubai's parents. When they heard in Lin's words, they finally perked up a little. They opened their half-closed eyes and examined in Lin. When they looked at Clown, their eyes widened even more, and they seemed to suck in a breath of cold air. "Mother, what do you think?" Bai Xian inquired. "This human cultivator is quite handsome and pleasing to the eye. But isn't this monkey a little too ugly? Can a Bai's heart take seeing this monkey every day?" Chun asked in a mellow voice. "I think Brother Monkey is very normal. It won't affect me anyway, woof." Dubai immediately retorted. After hearing Dubai's words, Chun's expression became a little solemn. "Father, look, it's only been a few hours, and our child's eyes have already been blinded. This is way too unsafe." "And Lin, Clown, transform," and Lin suddenly said. Clown immediately understood and transformed into an adorably ugly little monkey with a bang. He sat on Lin's shoulder. Chun's eyes lit up when she saw this. She nodded. There's no problem now. There's a hint of cuteness in this ugliness." Bai Xian yawned and wagged his snow-white tail. "If Mother doesn't have any objections, then I don't either. Dubai, don't go around fooling around in the future. And in Lin, if Dubai loses even a single strand of dog fur outside, I'll hold you responsible, woof." Hearing Bai Xian and Chun's words, Dubai and Lin were both overjoyed. They knew that they had passed their parents' test. Lin never would have thought that meeting their parents would be so easy. All they had to do was look at their faces. Achoo! Dubai was so excited that he sneezed. A strand of white dog fur slowly fell from his body. And Lin, Dubai, Bai Xian blew out a breath of air, and the white dog fur instantly turned to dust. Then he smiled wickedly. And Lin, this time at home, doesn't count. Looking at this ancestral smile, the corner of Lin's mouth twitched. But in the end, he still bowed gratefully and then left the courtyard with Dubai. After Lin and the others left, Bai Xian and Chun continued to lie lazily on the immortal grass cattail. Chun narrowed her eyes. "Child's father, is this Lin really going to be all right?" Bai Xian scratched his belly with his paw and said slowly, "In any case, I can't see through this human cultivator. He's full of uncertainties. Who knows, Dubai might have a great opportunity if he follows him." Chun closed her eyes. "There'll probably be a lot of danger." Bai Xian also closed his eyes. Isn't that normal? Which powerful beast doesn't experience some trials and tribulations? What kind of future can they have by staying at home all the time? All right, time to sleep. Chun didn't say anything. She was already snoring. It seemed like she had fallen asleep. Bai Xian was also snoring loudly, enjoying the leisurely afternoon. Chapter 140. Before leaving the mythological beast sect, Lin and Dubai went to meet up with Zhao Huayin again. Zhao Huayin had pretty much taken care of everything in the mythological beast sect. They would meet again at the start of the second year, so they waved goodbye after a brief conversation. There was no need to make things too emotional. Lin rode on Dubai and arrived at the top of a hill. The sun shone brightly here, and a light breeze blew gently. It was a good place to take care of business. He made a hand seal and muttered something. Vital energy surged around him. He slid his finger across the air, and a drop of golden blood appeared on his fingertip. Then, it dripped onto Dubai's forehead. Whoosh! An invisible contract connection began to form between Lin and Dubai. Dubai's eyes lit up, and he stuck out his tongue excitedly. "I did it. I feel like we're connected by an invisible thread. Is this what it feels like to be a beast pet? Moreover, I can actually sense your position invisibly. And Lin nodded with a smile. We're both spirit nurturing stage cultivators. As long as we're within a 5-kilometer radius, we can sense each other. After successfully signing a contract with Dubai, and Lin began to extend his claws toward Xiao Cho. He fished out Xiao Hong and said to Dubai, let's get a number. This flower is called Xiao Hong. She signed a contract earlier than you, so why don't you let her be the boss? Xiao Hong knew that Dubai had already signed a contract with Lin, so she waved her lush green leaves in greeting. Dubai didn't really care about the number. He asked curiously, what about Xiao Cho? Is he number 2? Xiao Cho scratched his fur sheepishly. I haven't signed a beast pet contract with Big Brother yet. Lin patted Xiao Cho on his shoulder. There's been too much going on recently. Xiao Cho and I haven't thought about this. Dubai chuckled. Haha, then I'm number 2. Clown, hurry up and sign a contract with Master. That way, your karma will be linked and your future will be limitless. If you don't follow Master, you'll regret it. Lin wore a tranquil smile on his face, but he was praising in his heart. Well done, Dubai. This assist. I don't even know how to praise you anymore. Dubai's thoughts were very simple. He just wanted to have a third brother so that he could be his second brother. The clown had a conflicted look on his face. He looked at Lin with his light bulb-like eyes and asked timidly, but can I really do it? The clown had learned quite a bit about Lin's legendary deeds during this period of time. Thus, he also understood that Lin would definitely become a great figure that soared through the 9 heavens in the future. Would such a great figure really accept him as a pet beast? Seeing the clown's lack of confidence and inferiority, Lin was also stunned. Then, he began to understand what the clown was worried about. Heavens, I can't wait for you to become my pet beast. How could you feel inferior? A warm smile appeared on Lin's face. He said gently, Clown, you and I are brothers. A pet beast contract will only make our relationship closer. There's no problem. What kind of caring and gentle words. The clown was extremely touched. He then nodded excitedly. All right, thank you, big brotherin. Come, let's sign the contract. Just like that, Lin's golden blood dripped onto the clown's forehead, and the two of them successfully signed the contract. Ding dong, mission complete. The system's notification made Lin ecstatic. The contents of the 6 strikes of the war god, the intermediate rank war god sword technique, began to flow into his mind. Moves, magic arts, intent realm, Tao, enlightenment, true intent. Only now did he realize how profound the 6 strikes of the war god was. It was so exquisite that he had never seen anything like it before. The sword true intent even pointed to the source. Clown, come and spar with me. Lin's long sword was already thirsting for blood, and he immediately began to speak. The clown immediately transformed into his original form. He held a silver staff in his hand, and an extremely powerful aura burst forth from his body. Although he didn't know why Lin suddenly wanted to spar, he wouldn't refuse since sparring would help him improve his battle prowess. Very well, I'm going. Lin wielded his golden glazed sword and charged toward the clown. Streaks of dazzling golden light slashed out. The clown looked at the streaks of light, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of danger. One had to realize that Lin was only of the spirit-nurturing initial stage, while he had already advanced to the spirit-nurturing final stage. Even though there was a gap of 2 ranks between them, Lin was still able to unleash a sword strike that was threatening to him. How could he not be shocked? The clown didn't dare to underestimate Lin in the slightest. He wielded his silver staff and fought with all his might against Lin. Boom, boom, boom. An explosive boom erupted from where the two of them fought. The ground within a radius of 100 feet cracked open, and debris flew into the air. Lin's sword strikes were unpredictable and exquisite. The more the clown fought, the more apprehensive he became. In terms of strength and speed, the clown was definitely superior to Lin by quite a bit. However, this disparity was made up for by Lin's fearsome swordsmanship. However, the clown was a spirit-nurturing final stage spirit beast, so his vital energy capacity was more than double that of Lin's. Thus, the clown still had the upper hand. The more Lin fought, the more exhilarated he became. This was him, This was the true sword immortal Enlin. "Be careful, clown," Enlin yelled, and a white gust of wind suddenly revolved around his golden glazed sword. Due to the enhancement of the wind spirit technique, the wind became even purer and more ethereal. First technique, wind sword. Enlin's aura suddenly changed, and his sword slashed through the air, leaving a series of afterimages in its wake. So fast, the clown's heart jolted, and he immediately turned his staff around to defend himself. However, Enlin's sword strikes were so fast that it was almost impossible to follow them with the naked eye. Bam! 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 The golden glazed sword slashed into the clown's black crystal armor, and dazzling sparks flew. In the blink of an eye, the clown had been struck over a dozen times. If it weren't for the armor, the clown would have been severely injured already. What a terrifying sword technique again. The clown retreated a few steps. He was also having a great time, and his battle-intense sword as he raised his staff and charged forward. "Wait, don't fight anymore." Enlin panted heavily as he placed his hands on his knees. The clown was slightly taken aback, and he looked at Enlin's exhausted expression. "Are you tired?" he asked uncertainly. Enlin nodded and sheathed his sword. He lay on the cracked ground and panted heavily. The 6 strikes of the war god were truly powerful. He could just barely keep up with the clown with the normal sword strikes. If he were to use the 6 sword techniques, he would be able to turn the tide of the battle. However, the amount of vital energy he had to expend was simply too terrifying. He had only used the first technique, but his sea of vital energy was already on the verge of drying up. This was even after he had expanded his sea of vital energy and cultivated the evergreen technique. At this moment, Dabai ran over with an excited expression. "As expected of Big Brotherin, you're so powerful and handsome when you use a sword." Dabai also followed the clown's example and addressed Enlin as Big Brotherin. He felt like this was the only way to accentuate Enlin's domineering aura. Enlin scratched his head sheepishly. Before he knew it, a joyful smile had appeared on his face. His dream of becoming a sword immortal had finally come true. Let's go and have some fun at the Vermilion Bird Sect. Chapter 141. On an inky black floating continent, there lived a mysterious tribe. They were born with extraordinary strength. Even a normal residents who didn't know how to cultivate possessed the power of a high-ranked Dao body. Once they reached adulthood, even a normal person could fly in the sky with their black wings. This tribe often appeared at night, and every time they moved, they would bring a storm of blood to the Tai Chu continent. All living beings on the Tai Chu continent viewed this tribe as the demons of the night. They were also known as the Dark Wing tribe because they all had a pair of black wings. However, this tribe proclaimed themselves to be the messengers of the heavenly Tao, and everything they did was for the heavens. On the floating continent where the Dark Wing tribe lived, there was a gigantic castle standing at the very center. 11 engravings hovered around the castle, exuding a vast divine light. These engravings represented the 11 paramount monarchs of the Dark Wing tribe. There were originally 12 engravings, but due to the sudden death of the Dark Knight monarch, one of the engravings was shattered, resulting in the current 11 engravings. This shook the entire Dark Wing tribe, and the Dark Wing Emperor issued an order to mourn for 3 months. The mourning was still ongoing, and the Dark Wing tribe was still immersed in a sorrowful atmosphere. Within the castle, the Dark Wing Emperor stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking down at the 11 monarchs. A bleak voice sounded from the Emperor's mouth. "Starry Night Monarch, you gave up on the investigation of the Dark Knight Monarch. I punish you to supply energy to the heart of darkness for 100 years. A sinister-looking man bowed respectfully. "Starry Night Monarch, as you command. 100 years of hard work to get his life back. What a steal. We can't just let the Dark Knight Monarch die, and we must retrieve the evil slaying sword. Which one of you will take over?" The Dark Wing Emperor's voice sounded again. It was bleak and distant, but it struck directly into the hearts of all the monarchs. The monarchs all fell silent, clearly contemplating their options. After all, Their enemy was someone who could kill the Dark Knight Monarch before she could even use the starless sky of Slaughter Formation Disk, so they couldn't be too cautious. After a while, a beautiful woman with long, inky hair that fell to her knees slowly walked forward. Her eyes were as gentle and clear as the moon, but her expression was as calm as still water. Moonlit Night is willing to take over. The Darkwing Emperor nodded approvingly. Very good. If you succeed, not only will you obtain a divine fruit, but you'll also receive a divine fruit. You will also be qualified to enter the heavens fissure and comprehend the Tao inheritance light that appears once every 1,000 years. All of the monarchs shuddered upon hearing this, and they couldn't help but cast envious glances toward the moonlit night true monarch. Divine fruits were hard to come by, but the light of Tao was even harder to come by. Comprehending the Tao inheritance light would give them a chance to touch the threshold of the Tao integration realm. How could they not be tempted? However, there was only one such opportunity every 1,000 years. The heavenly rift was about to open, but the moonlit night monarch had snatched the spot away. Thank you for your reward, your majesty. In the face of such a tempting reward, the moonlit night monarch merely extended a calm salute to express her gratitude. The Darkwing Emperor nodded upon seeing this. The moonlit night monarch was one of the top 3 monarchs among the 12 monarchs, and she was much more powerful than the Dark Knight monarch. Moreover, she was calm in handling matters, planning before taking action. None of the missions she took on had been a failure. In other words, in the eyes of the Darkwing Emperor, the moonlit night monarch was the best candidate to handle this matter. Sure enough, she had stepped forward. The Darkwing Emperor's eyes seemed to pierce through space as he looked toward a certain direction. Evil Slaying Sword by Hua State. Within a specialty restaurant, and Lin, who was feasting with Dabai and the others, suddenly sneezed. Why are you sneezing while eating? You're affecting my appetite, woof. Dabai raised a paw in protest, and Lin chuckled sheepishly. Maybe some beautiful woman is missing me. She's too powerful and too handsome, so I can't do anything about it. Dabai rolled his eyes and ignored him as he continued to eat. They were on their way to the Vermilion Bird sect. Because it was a vacation, and Lin planned to have some fun and experience the culture of the Kingdom of the Nine States. Perhaps it was because he had seen too many beautiful celestial maidens, but he didn't see many beautiful women along the way. However, the food was very much to Lin's liking. They went to various restaurants and ordered dishes that they had never seen before. They were also very satisfied along the way. After eating to their heart's content, Lin went to the Feng Hua court to see the women. The Feng Hua court wasn't the kind of place one would imagine. It was a place where singers sang and dancers danced. Aside from that, there was nothing else to be done. It was like watching a theatrical performance on Earth, and Lin wasn't really interested in the dancing of the dancers. However, the singing of the singers was very attractive to him. The songs that were popular in the Kingdom of the Nine States were all very melodic and had a certain artistic beauty to them. The singers were all very engrossed in their singing, and their melodious voices lingered in the air. It was like a beautiful combination of sound and form, and Lin enjoyed it very much. The bright moon hung high in the sky. Somewhere in the sky above the Bai Hua state, the space was torn apart by a pair of snowy white hands. A woman walked out from the spatial passageway. The moonlight shone down on her, making her appear gentle and holy. She was the moonlit night monarch, who had rushed over from the mobile castle to carry out a mission. I can sense that the evil slaying sword is nearby. The moonlit night monarch closed her eyes and raised her head slightly as she took a slow breath. I can't send people there directly. The karma will be very obvious if I do that. What can I do to dilute the karma and still obtain information? A light breeze blew past, and the moonlit night monarch's body floated into the sky like a willow leaf. Become a part of nature and completely become a bystander. A being that has no heart, doesn't interfere, doesn't care, yet knows everything. A faint smile appeared on her face. Her entire body was enshrouded by moonlight as she floated into the sky and transformed into a star. This star didn't twinkle. Its light was very much like the moonlight, gentle and watery. It was actually a small, round moon with a distinct silhouette. The moon was like the star, and the star was like the moon. Even though it had become a part of nature and had no heart, it still saw in Lin. To put it more accurately, it didn't see in Lin. Rather, it was because it had some kind of connection with the evil slaying sword, which made Lin stand out. At the amorous flower court, the female singer finished her song, and the audience below the stage applauded enthusiastically. Even Dubai squatted on the ground and applauded excitedly. He had never been to a place like this before. Being able to watch beautiful women dance and listen to beautiful women sing was an extremely enjoyable experience for him. The law of racial estrangement didn't seem to apply to Dubai. As soon as he saw beautiful women, Water Woof Woof's eyes widened like a lonely old man seeing a beautiful young woman. And Lin wondered if Dubai was a man in disguise. Otherwise, how could he be even more excited than he was at the sight of beautiful women? Achoo! Just as Lin was applauding, he sneezed again. Dubai chuckled. Big brother, and you sure have a lot of luck with women tonight. Another lonely beauty is thinking about you. And Lin sniffled in resignation. Sigh, what should I say to a girl like her who stares at me silently and thinks about me secretly without confessing?